spouses fighting, killing themselves, mothers killing their children because of mental health issues, and so forth. And this is an area we must be able to work together. The other threat to our nation is gangs and hooligans.
Murkomen has called on church leaders to bring political leaders together so that the nation can speak with one voice.
The person who will be running for president, of course, to defend his position is an AIC, and most likely the leader of the opposition running against him is AIC. So we want to say, please pray for us, all of us. Pray for all of us. And of course, assess what we can do. And if you find that you have the capacity to bring us together, bring us together. There is no issue, so that we work together for our nation.
Hundreds of Kenyans on Sunday demonstrated in Nairobi protesting the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where it's estimated that over 65,000 have been killed. The protest, which began with a convoy of motorbike and car riders from Adams Arcade, ended at Uhuru Park, where attendees expressed solidarity with the Palestinians and condemned the ongoing violence. Speakers at the peaceful protests drew parallels between the situation in Gaza and Africa's colonial past. Irungu Horton, Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, described the invasion of Gaza as worrying and called for an end to the genocide.
Today is not a religious concern. It is not even a concern for the people of Palestine alone. It is a concern for the entire planet. We say that all citizens across the world must be engaged in this cause. This is the single cause of our generation.
We are here to show our solidarity for Palestine. It is not okay for children to be bombed. This is the most documented genocide ever.
For the last almost 2 years, with thousands of people have been killed and people being starved to death, I think it spreads the concerns of humanity, that anyone with a bit of humanity in his soul should be able to express solidarity with the people of Gaza.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leo Baga, and remember to continue enjoying the EPL matches across our radio stations. That is Berur, Radio Maisha, and right here on SpiceFM.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody is human. So when you're told kuja tuongee. I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Stagi kuongea." Conversations have to be had, you know.
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord. It shouldn't be like that.
I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Stagi kuongea." Conversations have to be had, you know.
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Imagine. Oi. Hello? Hello? Can you imagine that the thing is not even there? Good morning. Now is when Christine is coming. I'm sorry. No, sorry. But we're on air. Good morning. I told you she was coming. You people were doing this thing.
No, video.
Video? Okay, so sorry. Sasa, next time, vile inasemanga.
Is it the phone or user problem?
Okay, sorry. Don't worry, tomorrow we'll do it again.
Next time.
Yeah, we're on air.
We're on air.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning to Dennis Aseto.
Good morning. How are you?
Me. I've got the joy down in my heart. Down in my heart. Down in my heart, I've got the joy, 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 joy. Down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. Verse 2. I've got the wonderful love of the blessed Redeemer way down in the depths of my heart. Down in the depths of my heart. Down in the depths of my heart. I've got the wonderful love of the blessed Redeemer way down in the depths of my heart. Hey, down in the depths of my heart to stay. I went to Sunday school, my friends. And then
I was sitting back, you continue.
I know.
Just now relax. Kama hivi ndio kunaanzwa.
I know.
Continue.
Dennis Okari, your boy is back, man.
I'm back. And I come with gifts. Chill.
Aseto has come back with gifts. Aseto, I've never heard Ndu sing. Is it 2 stanzas?
2 stanzas.
I've never ever.
Okari dark chocolate.
Where?
Oh my God.
He's described you. He has described
because
you. Here we go.
Once you go black, you never go back. As dark as it can be for a dark,
what's wrong with you?
Beautiful man. Okari.
What's wrong with you? Okay, well, thank you.
And then we have a golden girl in the room.
Inside. He doesn't have a point.
We have a golden girl, Beautiful as ever. Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice. Please keep shining.
Oh, thank you, darling. Oh, wow. Amazing. Thank you so much.
The boy just landed with poetic justice.
And I have some for the team as well, so
You see?
See, they come.
They come, Hey, Evelyn, come do that thing,
Joylene, all of you, come.
She said she'll come later. Joylene is wondering, come away. What are you talking about? Welcome back.
I missed you guys.
I missed you too, Bwana.
Yeah, Okari, I missed you so much. How are you?
Why did you come back?
Let me tell you a secret.
Yeah.
He missed you too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I've never seen him do this excited.
Hey. Why? It's Monday. Let me tell you something.
No, Monday.
There's a renewal of the spirit. I'm telling you, it happened from yesterday morning. After the word landed on fertile ground, there is a renewal of the spirit. I was even telling EVE. There's a renewal of the spirit, I'm telling you.
The word landed on fertile ground.
It did, and it has.
And the young man landed also.
Yeah, like a flower that is blooming in the morning.
Like you land like a flower blooming in the morning.
Yes.
Hey. What did they teach you this? Oh my God. Do you have your double here?
Gumbaru, but it's okay.
Masomo imepeleka mbio hivi.
Yeah, but I'm grateful.
You're even brighter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't have sun on the other side. They don't have sun on the other side.
Well,
so
I
yeah,
know, it's been raining like crazy.
Yeah.
Karibu sana lakini.
Asante, man.
Good to have
you
you
away
back.
for a minute.
Yeah.
How long
Like
was
2
that,
minutes.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 minutes.
2 minutes too.
2 minutes. That was a long time. Ndu missed you a lot. Wow.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. Ndu will talk and just stay at that side, even when there's no guest.
You make me sound like a psychological wreck. Ndu would stay. Sawa basi. See, tuko hapa.
Yeah.
And it's Kenya's biggest conversation.
Kabisa.
And it's Monday. The 20 what?
22nd.
22nd?
Yeah.
22nd of September.
Yep.
Come chezo, September imeisha.
Hivyo tu.
And we're going into the last quarter of the year.
The September to remember.
That's bus.
With chocolates. Oh my God. Ferrero.
The thing that you've done for Okari today.
Hazelnuts. Where?
You'll never forget it. You have cemented the Did I say it out loud? I've cemented the bromance.
Who wants to share this with me?
Hey guys, it's the Situation Room. It's Monday. Things are happening. EVE is here and is making things happen. Christine, good morning. She took a video this morning and then I don't know what she did with it, but we'll forgive her, I guess, maybe, until she wants to plan something else. My sister, c'est la vie. Let's tell you some of the things that we'll be discussing this morning. We've come off a weekend that was not too tumultuous, but the many things are happening all the same. And that's what we do. We'll have those conversations. We'll put them up and let's all pick at it a little bit and see what it is that we will be discussing. Sawa Sawa. We're going to start things off this morning at 7 a.m. with Rehema Zaid Obui. She's a chief strategist preventing violent extremism and counterterrorism. She'll join us at 8 o'clock. Today is the 22nd of September. It's 12 years since Westgate. And I can't forget that day in any way, shape or form. I mean, I like I told you guys several times, I was right there at Westgate with all of this happening. And the things that happened thereafter were chilling in nature. To imagine that there were people who maybe were there for a whole weekend or that they disappeared that Saturday night, we don't know. But 12 years on, how are we dealing with terrorism and lessons to learn? It's interesting because CS Murkomen just a couple of days ago then named two groups as essentially terrorist groups that will be waged war on, essentially. One of them being the Islamic Brotherhood and the other one, I forget, but has come out very boldly to say that, you know, these will be enemies of Kenya, essentially, and joining other nations, excuse me, to fight against them in terms of the war against terrorism. So he made that clear. I believe that was on Saturday when that came through. But 12 years on from Westgate, what lessons have we learned? We'll do that with Miss Obui at 7. And then at 8 o'clock, Marcus Agenga is a program coordinator for ELOG, the Elections Observation Group. And also joining us will be Rishab Kumar Rawar. He is the head of Commerce and Press at the High Commission of India. Ballots and trust. What Kenya can learn from India's electoral journey. We're talking about 1 billion people in terms of population. That's why it's called the Indian subcontinent. But then we're also looking at close to 800 million voters across the subcontinent. How do they manage to do this in one day? What is it that they do to also keep their elections cheap? We'll hear about the dollars and cents, but there are lessons, I think, to be learned. So it's hour 2 in terms of lessons. And then tobacco. There is an amendment bill debate going on right now in Parliament. Dr. Kariuki Michael is Secretary General of the Harm Reduction Society of Kenya. Boniface Kashoka is the Secretary General of the National Bar Association Owners Association. We're going to have a conversation at 9 o'clock concerning that. There have been pictures, graphic ones. Oh, don't sell, you know. But it's on and on and on. And what does this amendment bill say? And if we're fighting tobacco use, how are we doing it? That's what the lineup looks like today on the Situation Room. Thank you for being here every morning. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Our audience on KTN is here, and we're getting into it this morning. Ndu, Dennis, for the first time in 2 weeks, I can actually say that, you know. The two Dennises are here, and very good to be here as we have these conversations. So let's get into it this morning. And now you will tell us where you are taking us this week.
So today we are in Ivory Coast.
Yeah. See London.
We are at Paddington Station. Today we've landed in Ivory Coast. Côte d'Ivoire, to be specific.
Côte d'Ivoire, yeah. Both my siblings are in Côte d'Ivoire right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but they're both traveling and in Côte d'Ivoire at the moment.
Yeah.
My older brother and sister. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. So a country that borders Liberia, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and the Atlantic Ocean, with a population of 29 million people, and official language is French because they were colonized by the French. You know, let's go to the proverb. The proverb, a single tree cannot make a forest. A single tree cannot make a forest. How would you interpret that?
You can't do it alone, man. The thing that could be in you, that could be similar to somebody else, that's great. However, you can be a single tree on your own. That's fantastic. But if you're going to join into an ecosystem, which then think about a forest and what it does, it provides habitation for animals. It is a place of conservation for flora and fauna. It is water catchment. It's so many things, but a single tree cannot do that, cannot provide all of that. You can't be everything to everybody. You can be something, but you can imagine if you come together, you're great. Like energy, I think about energy, a single atom, you don't recognize its energy until it connects with another one. Should I go on?
Go on. You feel inspired. The word dropped on fertile ground.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't do it alone.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't matter if you're Superman. I think I was watching documentaries of Usain Bolt over the weekend, and this is a powerhouse of a man, the greatest the world has ever seen, over 100 meters. But you know what? He said, I had so many things wrong with me. I have scoliosis. His back, he should not be an athlete, actually. He's got scoliosis. The curvature of his spine is not what an athlete's body is. He's 6'6". He's, again, not an athlete. He's tall. You need to be closer to the ground to be able to achieve speed over such a short distance. And he found that he had this speed, and he won his first championship at the age of 15, but he never did it alone. He ran the race, that 10 seconds, but he had his doctor, he had his coach, he had his fitness, he had his nutrition, he had his teammates, and he said over and over again, I'd be useless over 100 meters if I didn't have these people with me. So yeah, they call me I'm the greatest, fine, but without these guys, I wouldn't have been there.
Interesting. I mean, you can draw that. You can draw a lot of comparisons. Just looking at life, you're talking about Usain Bolt. I was watching Formula One yesterday, and you know how they say behind every team you have like 1,000 people behind that one small car, and so the success of the driver is from the mechanics to those who work in the factory to the engineers to the team principals to everyone who works within the sport. And it's one of the most most expensive motorsports, F1. But you look at the proverb literally is we can't thrive in isolation, basically. And we are creatures of relationships, and so therefore you have to collaborate with someone or people to make things happen. Even Jesus, when he came to this world as the Son of God, he needed the 12, and they kept multiplying. He couldn't walk alone. He needed to work with somebody. He couldn't complete his mission alone, though he was God. So he needed people. So we all need people, you know. We can't thrive in islands or in isolation all by ourselves. You will always need, you know, somebody to hold your hand. You will always need teamwork to make things work, you know. We're doing this show, but before we came in, there's somebody who put the lights on, somebody who put the microphone on. There's a team working behind the scenes, making sure that everything is running smoothly. All the guests that we get, they don't just find themselves here. So it's all teamwork, team effort.
Unity and cooperation being essential. You know, I look at it from the aspect of, say, I work in insurance, you know, and you look at what forms an insurance that works.
I was going to ask you if you actually work in insurance.
What? Right? You said you work in insurance?
He said, I work in insurance. I was going to say, that's what you do when we're not with you. Anyway, sorry.
So you look at what when an individual puts in that single pot, it will not work for them. But when everybody puts in that single pot, and that pot gets to help you when you're in need, that makes everything work.
Absolutely.
So unity is essential in everything to work, you know. That's how I look at it.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I know that you're online today, so how about we say a quick good morning to you, and just thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And it's another thing, even our audiences, we can't do this without you. We can't have these conversations. We can't push each other to want to do and be better without you. And so it's always great that you join us every morning, and it doesn't really matter what your stance is or your opinion
is. There's a song by Neo says, I'm a movement by myself. But I'm a force when we're together.
The Dennis's with the lyrics this morning be driving somebody crazy.
Chocolate.
Imagine what is going to happen in another hour. On top of the sky. Don't Sabwa Ndu, yes. As SHA registered numbers mutate, kindly ask Okari. Is the State House visit a bottom-up approach, or is it a people's psychological manipulation?
You know the answer.
Mimi nimeambiwa nikuulize swali.
Mwenye ameuliza anajua jibu.
Bas. You have communicated.
Is it the former or the latter?
So you're going to be talking like this for a while. All right, then. Desmond Otis says, good morning, Spices. Ndu, is it another death in a police cell? Okay, Okari, you've been asked another question. Tell Kenyans, in whose hands are they safe? Tell them. In whose hands are they safe?
Your own.
Abi,
Yeah.
trust yourself.
Exactly.
Trust your padlock.
Thanks. Trust your padlock. Talk to those union guys. Literally. So union, and I know in whose hands are we safe is a question, but union is actually the padlock brand.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, if you missed that one, you need to wake up.
Or yale.
Good morning, team, says Agutu Ogembo. Good morning to you, Karibu Sana. Peter Kiari is tuning in this morning from Mombasa and says, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. How about that? Rose Grace, anatusalimia kutoka tamu. No, anatupenda pia anatuambia hiyo. And have a good week ahead. Robert Mbogo is tuning in this morning from Mombasa. Good to have you here. Nyakundi Emmanuel says, good morning, Team Spice. We thank God for this day. Indeed, we do. Jumbo Spice says, Kisa Daniel. Good morning to you. Portland, Oregon is where Masharia and Jero is tuned in this morning and watching. It's this morning, but I know it's heading to nighttime. Kennedy Ongwai tuned in. I'm locked in from Nairobi. Good morning, Spice. Blessed week ahead, says Rogers Nyange. Engineer Fighter Karaoke tuned in this morning. I hope your weekend went well. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So, Unga opens. So, of course, you know, on the sidelines of Unga, many things are happening. We're going to have the first of meetings today. But folks flew into Unga over the weekend, and there are many side meetings that are going on. So, in case you're wondering, Unga is not what is going to be mixed and put on your plate. Unga is the United Nations General Assembly meeting in September, as it often does. Sawa. Tibbs Moge is tuned in this morning from Spice and says, good morning, Spice team. Achieng is tuned in from Hargeisa in Somaliland. Good morning, folks, says Jimmy Munudi. Bonjour à tous, comment allez-vous, says Agola. Ça va bien, merci, et vous? Isa Kale says, good morning, crew. What's the situation in today's room? Listening in from Mombasa. Allah, Isa, you're in Mombasa. Okay. Good morning. Daniel Jogona says, good morning. Tuned in from Embu, Dallas. Okay. You're in many places at the same time, Daniel. But you love SpiceFM, and we love you too. Thank you for tuning in every morning. James Dan is tuned in and says it's a new week. Indeed it is. George Okoh says, good morning. Princess Dennis Squared and EVE. Looking forward to another inspiring day watching from Miami in Florida. Welcome to Miami. Bienvenido a Miami. Okay. Erica War says, good morning, guys. My prince, good morning, Spice. Instead of Shah sending patients abroad, why can't they equip our hospitals to offer the services here at home? Isn't that the $1 million question? Yeah. Nick Bala's tuned in this morning and says, can't believe the Ethiopians largely financed the GERD domestically. Kenyans? They actually did. A lot of the financing for the Grand Renaissance Dam was Ethiopian financing. There was a little bit of here from the World Bank and I don't know what, but generally, former Prime Minister Zenawi said, I want us to do this as Ethiopia. And guess what? They did. It can be done. Yep. Good morning, Patriots. New week here. God bless you, says Duke. Good morning to you. Young Jedi is also tuned in this morning. Happy New Week. Getting you loud and clear from 237. Up on the Okoh. David Mangera is tuned in this morning. Welcome back, Aseto. Blessed week. Hello, Princess Ndu and Dennis. Saluting our honorable athletes for topping the world charts. Imagine the Kenyans have done a fantastic job.
Yes.
Look at the things that we've got. Top of the medal table, the most gold medals, also all the long distance running, all the long distance races were won by Kenyans.
Yeah.
It has never happened in any World Athletics Championships. So Hongera, Kenya. I mean, you've done a fantastic job. Athletes have done extremely well. Agola, thank you so much. Karibu Aseto, we missed you. Wamekumiss?
Missed you too.
David Mangera says, Okari and Aseto hawajui hiyo chorus. Amjui hiyo, nilikuwa naomba. You're supposed to, when I say, I've got to love,
we're cheering you.
Then you say, where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Hivyo.
Okay. Zile Sunday school si tulienda.
Hakuna. Hii Sunday school. See you.
Your Sunday school tulipelekwa ilikuwa so that you don't make noise in church.
I wanted to say the same thing.
You guys are the same person.
You know the group of schools? There's also a group of Sunday school.
Yeah.
I know what you're doing.
Nene mke huko acheni watu wakubwa huku.
Sikuwa pinky ponky.
Christina says good morning. Fiery Red, we see you. Erica War says Salimia Aseto, welcome back, Ambassador of Soft Life. Bas, wana kujua? Young Jedi says welcome back. We missed you. You missed your shenanigans. Where uko na shenanigan? Sindero?
Shenanigans.
Sylvester Oyigi says good morning. Beatrice Omanwa says good morning as well. You've come back with energy. Sindio, D&D, Ambassador of Soft Life, is in Unaona sasa. Jimmy Gakio says good morning. Eliana Yabesh is tuning and says love Mondays. Ntu told you on Friday we're here on Monday and we are here. I love it. Thank you so much. Elizabeth Obondi says good morning. Welcome back, Aseto. Eric Ohomo is listening from Lukenya. And John Kamburu is tuned in from Namibia. Kimathi Nkrumah McConnell says, good morning, Revolutionary Firing, Hope family, hope all is well. Let's big up Osiavio Kwame Nkrumah, number of people there, of course, greeting you. Welcome back, Aseto. Okari and Ndu, Miliona Golden Girls featuring Wanyonyi. I'm telling you, people did a fantastic job. Mtuflani, fantastic. Boaz Nalnia, now good morning. The room is so spicy. Ndu, do you know orange is the color of hope? We start the week filled with hope. Indeed, we are hopeful. Izakale, welcome back, Aseto. And welcome back to the place where facts are hot, the leaders are lukewarm, and the national mood swings faster than fuel prices at the pump. Where? Yeah. Wangi Juma says good morning. Good morning from Nairobi. Me and my sister were saved by faith from being killed by terrorists in Westgate as we were in London that weekend. But I remember those days vividly 12 years on. Rahim Tula Omar, good morning to you. Stanley Ngashe says good morning. Many kids on the block in Tokyo, and they did a fantastic job indeed. Richard Odera tuned in as well from Mikindani in Mombasa. A good start to the week. Sabal Heri Nyote kutoka Musambani. Good morning, Rogers. Anthony Kamburu is tuned in from Beijing. George Ruto is here. Good morning, Spice. Moirori Njane is tuned in as well. Kenya makes history in the World Athletic Championships in Tokyo. Yes, they did. Bonjour, Spice says just nature. Hussein Abdi is tuned in. Let's see if we can get through everybody real quickly. Albert Gizore says tuned in from Wow in South Sudan. Sir Brian Mutego is tuned in from Sotik. Good morning. Habari Asubuhi Wana Spice says, Brother Eric watching live from Mogadishu. Am I okay? Is tuned in. Welcome back, Dennis. Paul Njehia says good morning. Baridi Mepungua Nairobi. Was it cold? Welcome back, Dennis Aseto. Bud Disciple is tuned in from Riabai in Kiambu. Thomas Osoro says, hi guys, looking good, y'all. Blessed week ahead. And Ken John Yutu says, good morning from Kirinyaga. Everybody in the house and getting into these conversations this morning. Karibuni sana. Where? Nick, I'm telling you.
You were talking so fast, huh?
But you followed?
Yeah. That's how you're able to sing very fast. Huh?
Yeah.
That thing that you did in that song.
I was actually just thinking of calligraph. Tickety.
It's so interesting that when you're in media, in media production, the stuff that we learn in school, right? And then you do different kinds of media, it's interesting how there has to be a change. Radio is very fast.
True.
Fast. When you do TV, you slow it down significantly. You said if for radio we have to create a picture in the minds of people.
You have to communicate your 8-year-old grandmother and your 5-year-old daughter.
I'm telling you, this English. Give it till like October. We are sorry. As you were there. Let me tell you what's on the front page of the Standard. Kenya's bold newspaper. The headline on the Standard today: costly swindle. Kenyan taxpayers now face the risk of 10 billion shillings penalty after a cancelled dam contract turns sour. British firm GMB Engineering has petitioned authorities saying it was cheated out of a deal to finance and build the Grand Falls Dam on River Tana, a project meant to boost Kenya's power supply. The deal, signed under former President Uhuru Kenyatta, was scrapped in July by the Ruto administration. Now, plans to revive the project with a different contractor are raising fresh trouble. You understand, Abi? These guys came and said, River Tana, dam, build, we do. All right. They said, go ahead. It kind of didn't take off. Then it was cancelled in July this year by the current administration. GMB said, what? This was us, because we found out that now you want to build the dam using somebody else. No. So they said, this one, we're not going to let it go. If it happens that it doesn't, 10 billion shillings penalty is what Kenya might be looking at. When citizens borrow to buy food, the pain of rootonomics, Kenyans now borrow more than 13 billion shillings a month from digital lenders, mostly to put food on the table. It's a stark picture of a nation struggling to survive, with families left juggling empty plates and empty wallets. Sad. Healthcare stakeholders question Ruto's Shah sponsorship approach. The folks at Rufa say today is the day. Monday, we're going to down tools. You will not be able to access care at private hospitals using Shah. You will either use cash or you will go where? Away. Family in agony as hospital holds woman's body for 4 months. It's a true story. Looking at some other headlines, we'll look into that inside phone that helped Mackenzie run deadly cults. So somebody was giving him communication for him to continue doing what he was doing. And we're going to look at more stories because there's a special report around what happened with Shakahola. Kwabinzaro is also hotting up in terms of that. Riddle of Kenya's International Crimes Act that nobody wants to touch. Well, we'll touch it. We'll have a look at what that looks like. And so more and more stories, of course, making the headlines. The curtains closed on the World Athletics Championships. And I don't think it's celebrated enough what Kenyans did. Kenyans continue to put Kenya on the map. Oh, what a feeling. Kenya's reign supreme in the World Championships. And there your golden girls, Yegon and Chebet, holding their medals. And it was, whitewash across board. It's never been done before. So, Hongera, I keep saying, but it's making the news, as it should.
Yeah, so let's go to the Daily Nation and the headline. CS, ex-spy master and 10 billion shillings home owners in distress. Now, in 2014 deliverance charge, clerics informed the congregation during a service in Nairobi about a potential land investment. Prospective investors bought into the project, paid at least 2.5 billion shillings for 8-acre plots and built their dream houses on the land in Ruiru, Kiambu. But a decade later, they are staring at huge losses after court ruled their title deeds are fraudulent since the land belongs to the family of former spy chief James Kanyo too. Now, Matiang'i takes on Ruto as 2027 rivalry escalates, all about Siasa 2027. And on matters to do with corruption, that is on page 3 as well. EACC to auction 505 million shillings properties seized from Obado's associates in expansive anti-graft recovery. Now, there is that story on terrorism. Shall be having a discussion a little bit later, but Kenya has designated Muslim Brotherhood, Hizbu Tahrir terrorist organizations as the country continues with its fight against terrorism and radicalization in the country. State House and delegations, money, power, and hubris. For all its pomp, the ritual of delegations reveals less about strength and about insecurity. A president retreating deeper into spectacle to shield himself from a restless public. Yeah. And then, we have that story on Matiang'i defies party pressure, demands transparency by state, and UDA digital voting that delivered fair and credible nomination. Those are the stories making headlines on the Daily Nation.
Well, let's look at the Star. And I love the photo here of Lilian Odira, who won the 800 meters in the World Athletics. I mean, that beauty queen. Yeah. Oh, my God. She did run. Sebastian Sawe wins the BMW Berlin Marathon. So from Tokyo, Japan to Berlin, Germany, Kenyans are ruling. It was a beautiful, beautiful weekend.
Let me tell you, it was beautiful because I remember the day when we had the Copenhagen Marathon. I happened to be in Copenhagen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Kenyans, my G. It's never felt that beautiful, I tell you.
Wow.
Felt really, really good to
being there.
Kenyan, yeah?
I was like, I'm Kenyan. Yeah, it was beautiful.
The things that actually make us smile, make us forget all the problems. Yesterday, I was watching one of the bulletins, and they were leading with this too. From Tokyo, Japan. I mean, it was all celebration. Then moving to Berlin, Germany, celebration. The third story, coming back to the country, how mothers have been locked in a hospital in Osingishu because they can't pay SHA. And these are women who've just given birth. I was like, nani alitoroga lakini. Like, outside the country, if you're talking about Kenya, oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, look at our athletes. And a whole stadium is celebrating Kenyan athletes.
Yeah.
Then coming back home, the first story is how mothers have been locked in a hospital because they can't pay their bills. And then from there, you get into other stories, and you're like, this country of ours.
Both extremes.
Anyway, auctioneers smile to the bank as loans defaulters are rising. It's a very, very big story that's on page 4 and page 5 that lists what banks are having a field day, employing aggressive recovery tactics as borrowers, tenants, and businesses fall behind on their loan obligations. It's a very sad story of loans and defaulters in numbers, and you're looking at the average Kenya's monthly gross national disposable income for very many individuals, which is 36,800. Imagine that's what is disposable, 36K. Then you're looking at bad debt provisions by banks, 260.3 billion. Where we're being pushed, we're being pushed to the unknown.
Yeah.
There's a very, very big danger when it gets to that point. Hospital fees fuel counties' revenues as chief debts pile up. That's a story from the controller of budget. Now, full interest MPs return from month-long recess. Kesho wanarudi bungeni.
Yeah.
So there is... So Parliament reconvenes tomorrow after a month-long recess, with MPs expected to dive into a packed in-tray of urgent business during the third part of the fourth session of the current House. High on the agenda are consideration of President William Ruto's nominees to various agencies. Minakuleta vizuri, but sasa tumefika.
Hey, God in heaven. I was hoping that, as you were saying, top on the list is deliberations over the Auditor General reports. I was thinking maybe
cost of living and things that are affecting you and me. No.
Let's talk about his nominations.
Here on the agenda is President William Ruto's nominees to various agencies, deliberations on priority agreements and sessional paper, as well as a number of crucial bills. The National Assembly will be under pressure to fast-track several bills, including those on amendments touching on the Constituency Development Fund CDF. Trust me, this will be a hot one, which MPs are keen to safeguard amid mounting legal scrutiny. You watch this space. That will be among the key things that will be fast in the in-tray.
Okay.
Watch that space. Westgate terror 12 years on. Security agencies assure vigilance. So security agencies have assured Kenyans of heightened vigilance as the country marked the 12th anniversary of the 2013 Westgate Mall terror attack. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja said most parts of the country remain stable, with only a few areas near the Kenya-Somali border posing challenges.
Okay.
Now, there's a row. This is my last story, by the way. There's a row. This one I could not believe. You know, every day we do these things of Nancy Gathongo. Now there's a standoff between NEMA and a South African supplier. See that story we were talking about, the dam? That there was a contractor who was told, hey, you utajenga.
Yeah.
Then kidogo like this, wacha nirudi nikam. Niendegi nikam. The contract is not there. So there's a South African supplier who left Kenya without air quality reports for nearly a year.
Excuse me?
This South African company left Kenya, went back to South Africa without air quality reports for nearly a year. So, Auditor General Nancy Gathongo found that the authority was unable to generate reports, this is NEMA, after its 67 million. So, NEMA spent 67 million for air quality monitoring equipment that is still lying idle between February and November last year. This was in her review of NEMA's accounts for the period ending June 30th, 2024. So the lapse arose after NEMA failed to pay the required annual license fees to use that equipment. You've bought the equipment, it's 67M. You are not paying the license fee to use it. The guys packed their bags, went back to South Africa. The authority could not therefore generate air quality reports to disseminate to the public and other users during the period the equipment was idle. The report...
So,
yes,
essentially for anything
yes,
that required air quality updates reporting in order for you to continue with your project didn't exist for anything around the country for a year.
Nope.
So the South Africans are the operators of these software, this machine.
Yes, you are supposed to pay a license.
Yes.
It's one thing to buy the piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's like you buy this computer. You will need to to get the softwares in. So you need to pay. So the softwares that you have to pay an annual fee, a monthly fee, and whatever. So the report raised concerns about weak revenue collections, noting NEMA relies on self-declaration of project values by clients with only one quantity surveyor reviewing thousands of annual applications. Mtu moja. This exposes the agency to risk of errors, collusion, or fraud. Further, the audit found NEMA lacks a comprehensive database of regulated facilities. This weakens oversight of critical sectors such as petrol stations, hospitals, manufacturers, and agricultural processors.
But this is what I'm asking
Yeah.
you. So how were all of these elements of industry able to focus? Because it is part of the NEMA requirement.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're putting up, when you are not just putting up, but over your account management and monitoring and evaluation. So what you normally call in NEMA to do this thing for you. I'm thinking about hospitals.
Yes.
Hospitals across the country in terms of the quality of the air that's passing through these facilities. So how were for 365 years these hospitals getting the regulations up to scratch? How was that happening? Because it is only NEMA that can do it.
In short, tunapumua hewa tujui.
That's the thing, because that's the next question I was going to ask. So in terms of even knowing the air quality, say in Nairobi, is zero because the equipment that would help us know that. So when you are hewa unapumua ni ile ya Mungu,
Why are we angry?
quality.
Why are we angry? We didn't know. Before they gave us this story, did you know that the air you're breathing when you go into hospital is compromised? You didn't know.
At least I knew. Let me tell you. So this the first time I began understanding this thing of air pollution, that it's serious. I was driving with this member of parliament. This some years back. So we'd pass through parliament. So we had a meeting, and so I'm in his vehicle. I'm at the back. So there's a gadget that I saw there, and he kept telling the driver to make sure that all the windows are up. Just put the aircon. He had a humidifier in the car. So he had a humidifier in the car, but there was also this other piece of equipment with numbers. So I kept asking, what is this thing? It's like, this measures the air quality in the car. He is very, very keen and very careful around the air that he breathes, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Because before you got into the car, so you're coming from parliament. Then he said, Dennis, let us just drive within Nairobi. You see what I'm talking about. So we drove from parliament, we got to GPO. Then he told the driver, roll the windows down. The numbers kept rising. The thing was almost spiking red. And I was like, Dennis, if you stand here for only 15 minutes as you're waiting for a bus to take you to community or wherever, this gadget is telling you the air quality, whatever it is that you're breathing in, is so toxic. And look at these numbers. As I now imagine, you do this 3 or 4 times in a week. So later on in life, you don't realize you've respiratory issues, but you can't point out. You think, oh, in our family, no one has asthma. In our family, nobody has these complications. In our family, nobody has ever died of cancer. So you have people who are actually sick and diseased because of the air we are breathing in. And there's a company in South Africa that left for South Africa after NEMA spent 67 million. There's an equipment lying idle for 67 million, and you can't pay a license fee to use it, so there are no reports that are being generated for over a year. Are we jokers or are we at the joke?
That is just sad, man. Because that is a member of parliament, and one would ask at the point when, say, he is going for when they go for these tours to just check benchmarking. Then there is also when they're doing their committee meetings and visiting places to ensure that this hospital has been put up, these factories working. At that point, what does he do? Because he's also exposed like everyone else.
That's a good question.
And you'll be surprised that actually they get paid for people who are coming up with either hospitals, come, NEMA, come, and they'll come and they'll do reports.
And they know that they didn't do air quality control, which is part of the thing.
They will charge you for doing this report, but they have no equipment to do it.
There is something called impact assessment test that you have to go through, and that certificate is given by NEMA, so that the ones who come and see the impact that, say, putting up your factory and whatnot would have to the environment and to the people living around. So if that machine is not there, then these certificates they're giving people zinatoka binguni.
I'm telling you, kuna shida.
Hey.
So Can I tell you quickly?
Yes.
Then maybe you do one before we go to the top of the hour. Healthcare stakeholders question Ruto's Shah sponsorship program. So you remember that what it was is that last week, the president didn't come out to say, and he said, you know what? There are people who can't pay. And that's why the baraza that we had here when we talk about health, I think it was pivotal in how we should start having these conversations now. That there are people who can't afford the thing before we even talk about whether it's working or not. There are people who can't afford 300 shillings a month.
He said that in Mombasa.
He said
and he said, you know what, from tomorrow, that was now the Friday.
Yes, this money will be
there's money. State will pay.
Which state? Wacha nikwambie sasa hiyo pesa inatoka hapo. Over the weekend, the president announced that the government had committed 4.4 billion shillings to Shah to cover 2.2 million indigents, representing approximately 558,000 households. The Rural Private Hospitals Association of Kenya welcomed the move, calling it long overdue, as the identification of indigents is a key provision under the Shah Act. At the same time, the association criticized the way the program was launched, acknowledging some positive aspects but highlighting several concerns. Chairperson Dr. Brian Lishenga noted that the Shah Act stipulates that funds for indigents and vulnerable groups within SHIF must be appropriated by the National Assembly and county governments. We know that the National Assembly has been on recess for the last month. Maybe they'll come to this week and discuss it. But we've already been told that top of the agenda is not this one. It's now looking at the appointments by the president. So over the weekend he said this, and now people started to give money towards this thing. Remember he said that the government would pay?
Yes.
Not so much. Some guy has given 900 million, or has said he's going to contribute 900 million. The president himself has committed 4.4 million. Now suddenly this money is coming from people towards these indigent. Do you understand? Japheth Miriti, you know him, 5.5 million. Naisula Lesuda, 1.9 million. Janet Jepkemboy, 2.4 million. Felix Odiwor, you know who that is, 2.3 million. David Gikaria, 3.6 million. Mwangi Kiunjuri, 2.8 million. George Natembea, 23 million. Come on. Where? Irene Joki, 1.9 million. Ochili Ayako, 5.6 million. Irungu Kangata, 117 million shillings. Kimani Ishogwa, 3.4 million. And Abdul Swamad Sharif, 3.6 million. Sasa wamesema wacha tuku sindikishe,
tuku boost.
Pesa iende kwa watu ambaya they cannot afford the Shah. So that's what's happening on that side. I don't know if it's going to get to the 4.4 billion shillings that's being looked for to sort out these people. But now people are contributing their money. It's very interesting that this is happening. And that's how you say, look, we're looking for 4.4 billion to be able to allow people to go to hospital. Then your friends come and say, let's sort out the country. That's a serious posse. That's happening while a family is in agony as hospital holds a woman's body for 4 months. A family in Deia in Limuru is appealing to the government and well-wishers for help to bury their mother, whose body has remained in the mortuary for over 4 months. Relatives of Mary Wajiro, who is 57, a mother of 2, had been longing for a proper burial, but the mounting hospital bills have left them unable to proceed. They had to set up a tent to mourn her, but after countless attempts to convince the hospital to release her body were ignored, and with only a small payment made by Shah, they were forced to dismantle it in despair. Mary Kagia, a relative of the late Wajiro, shared that she is now caring for one of Wajiro's daughters, who is still young and vulnerable. So the hospital says, hamjalipa, hamtazika. Hapo ndo tuko.
Hapo ndo tumefika.
Yep.
There's a family. There's a family, before Aseto gets in very quickly, there's a family that went through the same troubling scenario. They can't clearly afford. They tried to sell their land. This was in Western. Even the amount they raised from selling their land could not, it was like a drop in the ocean. The hospital said, "You are not releasing the body." The family said, "You know what? The person is dead anyway. There's nothing we can do." Walipanda mandizi.
Simple.
They're like, "Okay, you want to stay with the body? We can't. Even if we kill ourselves, we sell our organs. We can't raise that money. We can't. Fine, stay with the body.
Stay with it."
Walipanda ndizi and the story kaisha hivyo.
Happens a lot, and that's a symbol. I think in some communities, unapanda mgomba, you forget about it, especially when you can't find your loved one who disappeared. Panda mgomba, forget about it. Now, there's this story by Okari's friend, this control of budget, the cousin to Okari's friend. Amid struggles by various county governments to meet revenue targets, political waivers, selective collection of levies, and a general lack of commitment in debt recovery are denying devolved units billions of shillings. Some governors, while pursuing debts owed, have been issuing costly waivers to please the electorate at the expense of critical revenue, leaving counties heavily dependent on national government disbursements. Now, these transfers are often delayed, paralyzing key operations in the devolved units. Most counties, which are owed millions in land rates, house rent, and other levies, have put in little effort to recover the arrears. In some cases, they have been forced to grant huge waivers, leading to significant revenue losses. Now, here's a story that brings Kenyans now into focus in terms of we live in these county government houses, we have land in these counties, but we don't pay. And at the end of it all, we go to the governors and warn them, wewe, ukikuja vibaya tutakupigia kura. So what do governors do? Give you waivers, and that has denied the counties the revenue they need for them to move forward, which brings us to a point where how then do citizens themselves realize their responsibility, meet that responsibility, and give to the counties? Or are we afraid tunasema hata nikilipa itapulwa?
You have never understood that story of the waiver.
I don't get it. I don't get it. How does it help anything?
There was a time, was it Woodley? There's a place where watu wanafukuzwa kwa manyumba.
Yeah.
They're not paying rent at all.
Yeah.
You're living in what was Kitambo government houses, now county houses. And there are people who refuse to leave. They refuse to move.
Yeah.
And you're not paying rent. And so you've got this group of people, like you're saying, and he was, when you introduce politics into some of these conversations, we had boda people here the other day, and they were telling us, you know what, the politicians are the same ones who use us. I want to talk CBD. They will not stop what they're doing, because today you want to introduce something that is so strict, they'll tell you, you know what, come elections, upate kura. So you still need to keep them happy.
Yeah.
I've never understood that.
So now question is, we as citizens, again, are we the ones, like we used to as well to the bad manners, that we take advantage of that to just put these politicians on chokehold? Because sitalipa rent and there's nothing you'll do about it. I'll not pay land rate because najua I will push you and you'll give me waivers and I will walk out scot-free. But what happens in a situation where I know I've paid my land rates, I've paid my rent, yours is to deliver? Are you seeing a connection where we might start having a different conversation?
Can see a situation. Nimelipa na unipe nini?
Unipati, yeah.
Water. Even. I'm telling you, this is how we are starting the week.
It's a circus.
It is. Let's look into Westgate, coming in after 7 o'clock. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obago. IPA leader Kalonzo Musyoka has said that the opposition has formed a special committee to look into the issues of victims of post-election violence and protests who will be listed for compensation by a commission set up by President William Ruto. Speaking in Kajiado, Kalonzo said opposition leaders will ensure that those affected by the protests get justice fast before being compensated.
For showing us that list. Now it is evident kwamba last year's maandamano ya mwaka jana hasa kwa upande wa Githurai ilisababisha vifo vya vijana wetu wengi. Sasa imedhihirika wazi, na ndio sisi kwa upande wa upinzani tukaamua kuanzisha tume People's Restorative Justice, kwa sababu mambo haya kioni yametuonyesha ni lazima yaletwe mbele. Lazima Wakenya waongee mambo haya hata kabla ya kufanya mengine, kwa mfano kusema mtafanya compensation without justice.
Former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has urged youth and residents of Kajiado to register as voters so that they can participate in the upcoming general election.
So the young people who are in this room, Angel Mbuthia and your youth groups from all parties, sasa tuache kuzungumuza na mdomo, tuzungumuze na kura zetu. please make efforts, go from point to point. And Bishop, please, katika kanisa lako, you and your colleagues, your fellow bishops, let us now move to the next phase. The next phase is, let's stop now talking about what has happened. We have seen what has happened. We have internalized the challenges. We have the solutions on how we'll sort this thing out. But we will not provide that solution without votes.
And religious leaders in Malindi in Kilifi County are calling on the government to release all the bodies exhumed from Shakahola and Kwabinzaro for burial in a mass grave after a failed DNA identification attempt led by Coast Baptist Church Pastor Reverend Francis Katana. The leaders have said keeping the bodies in the Malindi Hospital morgue for a long time threatens to disrupt the health facilities services.
Ningeomba serikali badala ya kuendelea kungojea ule muda wa kungojea, nafikiri kama ni kungojea, watu wamepewa muda wa kutosha, wafike wa identify ile mili either through DNA ama ile ambayo wanaweza kuitambua itambuliwe, lakini hilo halijafanyika. Mimi ningeomba serikali itoe mwelekeo kwamba ile mili yote pale iweze kutolewa, waende wachimbe mass grave, wazike hiyo mili, kama ni munara ujengwe, majina yaandikwe pale, anayetaka kuona jina la mtu wake asonge pale, kama vile ambavyo kule Nairobi ilifanyika wakati wa ile bomb blast.
Katana added that the time given to the families to identify the bodies is sufficient and that the government should now make a swift decision to bury the unidentified bodies.
Hatuwezi kungojea miaka nenda miaka rudi tukisema ya kwamba wenyewe watakuja wa claim mili yao. Mpaka lini hili litakuwa likiendelea? Naona ya kwamba wakati umefika ya kwamba ile mili iweze kuzikwa katika kaburi la halaiki, na kama ni munara ujengwe, kama itaenda kuzikwa kule kwa Binzaro ama itaenda kuzikwa kule Shakahola, mahali pawe identified, ile mili ichukuliwe, iweze kuzikwa na maisha yaweze kuendelea na shughuli nyingine pia ziweze kuendelea.
And Kenyans have been advised to maintain good mental health, especially by seeking treatment when they are diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Dr. Louise Namusonge, who is a registrar of the Department of Mental Health at Top Hill Hospital in Eldoret, has cited alcohol and drug abuse as among the causes of mental disorders.
Unaweza pata mtu anapata shida ya bipolar mood disorder ambayo inasababishwa na kutumia mihadarati. Tumeona kwamba mihadarati kama pombe, sigara, bangi na mengineyo yanaweza kufanya mtu hata apate shida kama ya bipolar mood disorder. Pia kuna madawa zingine za hospitali zinaweza fanya mtu apate shida ya bipolar mood disorder. Na pia tunaweza pata mtu anakuwa na shida ya mwili ambayo pia inaweza fanya mtu imchangie ili apate shida ya bipolar. That's why unaona imeanza kukua common lately.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leo Baga. Remember to continue enjoying the EPL matches across our radio stations. That is Radio Maisha Berur and right here on SpiceFM.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, good morning to you. It is now 9 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room on this 22nd day of September 2025. On this day, 12 years ago, Westgate was infiltrated and it threw the country into a state of panic for the next 72 hours. Until Monday morning, at about Monday at noon, nobody really knew what was going on. Nobody knew if the individuals who had come in concert into the Westgate Mall had actually left the country. There were talks of that they had gone through an underground tunnel and found their way out of Kenya. There were talks that they were within one of the supermarkets within the Westgate Mall. And at that time, it was under the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Interior Minister was one current governor, who not current, but governor of Kajiado County, one Olelenku. Those are the things that were happening. It started on a Saturday morning where people were shot and killed. It happened when the state of terror then rang very true within Kenya, and the Westgate Mall was closed for a while. And the threads of terror then were reawakened in the minds of many, many a Kenyan and indeed the world. Those who took responsibility for that terror attack, some of them have not been found till today. But here we are 12 years later, and we're having a conversation about how the changing face of terrorism in the world and indeed the country has affected how we operate. 2 groups over the weekend were also then singled out by the CS for Internal Security and National Administration. And what did he say? That they also now have been put on the list as groups that would be watched by Kenya. It's a terrorism conversation that we're having this morning, 12 years after Westgate. And joining us in this conversation this morning is Chief Strategist, Preventing Violent Extremism and Counterterrorism, Rehema Said Obui, and she joins us in the hot seat this morning. Good morning, Rehema.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Karibu sana and welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room. Obviously, we're having a sensitive conversation this morning, but necessary for us to do. 12 days ago, we also remembered what happened with 9/11 in the US and how that changed the face of terror. A few years after that, then we see this horrible thing having happened in Kenya. So we're going to go through the intrigues of that and see how those faces have changed. But before we do, we want to welcome you to the Situation Room. Dennis is going to tell you that we're in a different African country this week, as we always do. He brings the proverbs back from each country, and we would like to get your opinion of the proverb that he will share.
Yeah, so the country we're in today is Ivory Coast, also known as Cote d'Ivoire. And when you talk about the country, it's in the western part of the continent, and it is big on cocoa. It's considered to be one of the world's largest producers of cocoa, and also sells coffee, palm oil, rubber, and cashew nuts. So one would say today, if you drove yourself here, the tires perhaps was used by rubber that comes from Ivory Coast. But let's go to the proverb today. Now, a single tree cannot make a forest. A single tree cannot make a forest. How would you interpret that?
First of all, I will wish to greet the viewers and all of you, and say that it's a great honor for me to get an opportunity to speak to the nation about the threats. And I feel before we start anything, it is important that as we mark the 12th anniversary at Westgate attack, we remember and honor the lives that are lost. And also partly based on this, I should be able to answer your question on collective effort. So we need to work together. Our strength comes from synergy.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
But how would you interpret that proverb? A single tree cannot make a forest.
Yes, we need to be diverse. We need to collaborate at multi-sectoral levels. We need to tap on our strengths and weaknesses to bring up something great.
Well put. Well said.
Well put. Indeed. So that Saturday morning was a normal Saturday morning. Everybody was going about their business as they normally would. And going into the Westgate Mall, people were doing their shopping. I won't forget it, that atop the building, there was one of our media houses that was actually running a cooking competition for children. And there was a radio host on the roof, and she was moderating that cooking event. And as that was going on is when we all heard the gunshots. She, on that day, was killed. And the children were scampering for safety. And everybody who was below, we imagined that the shooter who was on the roof was going to take all of us out. We weren't quite sure what was going on. We thought that a bank was being robbed. These things that I'm telling you, we only came to find out later on. But at that point, we thought that it was a bank robbery. In fact, I remember calling at that time and saying, oh yeah, they've hit the bank again and we'll probably be out in a minute. It wasn't a minute. It was hours and hours and hours of terror and agony. We had to leave vehicles behind. We had to carry children. We had to step over, bodies. It was a horrible, horrible thing to experience or start to imagine. And this was in a similar nature to things that we have seen before. But what was very clear is that terrorism was still alive at that time, and maybe in many cases is today. 12 years after Westgate, and I mean, you can't begin. We have one sitting senator who many say was a hero on that day in terms of people whom he saved or tried to get them to safety before the wrecking squad and all of these other people came in. But it then made people very scared in terms of going into major buildings or going into crowded spaces, because Kenya was a target for terrorism. 12 years later, can we look at this again and ask ourselves, or ask you in this case, how things have changed as concerns terrorism and where Kenya's strategic position in all of this is?
Thank you so much. And I can attest to you that a lot has happened at multiple levels, from local, regional and also at the global level. First, we can look at how we've been able to strengthen collaborations in terms of how multiple security sectors work together, strengthening intelligence and coordination, because part of the gaps was poor coordination, and poor coordination will entail various aspects, including poor sharing of intelligence, and also the early warning. And I will also say that maybe at that time, terrorism was being viewed more as a securitized threat, and there was less involvement of communities. From where I sit at policy level, I believe that intelligence comes from the community. They are the powerhouse in terms of sharing intelligence. So I believe we've been able to work in a more coordinated way, and the shifts are towards seeing terrorism not only as securitized hard power, but we derive strength from the different segments, the community. So it is more of also looking at it from the regional perspective. We look at it as a transnational threats. We can look at border security, issues to do with border security, how vigilant are we on our borders, and also strengthening on security and community resilience. We be more proactive. Not reactive. And also, I've mentioned about at the regional level, for example, we have the IGAD Center of Excellence, we have the AU, and many other regional bodies, ECOWAS, that are working in coordination. I've mentioned about the joint operations, and we look at it from multidimensional, the different levels. For example, we can look at we don't just look at it from layman's language. Look at it, for example, maybe the synergy at the regional. We get very deep in our analysis. For example, the synergy between terrorism and organized crime. And I think the list is long in our analysis, but it's more of, if I'm to recap at this point, it's more on strengthening capacity building and community engagement, and strengthening on community resilience, and also looking at the emerging trends and looking at it also from a gender lens. We also look at the unique perspective different stakeholders can bring on the table, including women.
I think let's talk about the radicalization that the country has seen over time. You look at terrorism in the country, and there is the talk about Al-Shabaab, and one would have discussions on how radicalization has happened, especially from the northern part of the country, and pretty much just across the country. And you find that you've mentioned about gender and how women have been used to propagate terrorism in the country. So from where it is you sit, has the country in fighting terrorism in the country managed, first of all, to include communities in terms of intelligence and to be part of the fight against terrorism? Because remember, today it is very common for you to enter a building and you're frisked. It became a norm in the country, but before, people would just walk inside a building because we trusted each other like that. So are we saying the country and the people have consumed what terrorism is and are playing an active role in fighting it?
Yes, I will say that perfectly, because after the Westgate attack, the different units that were created, for example, we have the National Counterterrorism Center, that is the central body that moderates work for the community. So through the National Counterterrorism Center, we have, for example, the policies, the different policies. right from the country policy, country policy, the national strategy, that is cascaded down to counties, and these policies are taking care of unique needs of different segments in different counties. For example, the policy in Northeastern, so they're demographically contextualized. It's not the same as the one in Nairobi to take care of the different needs. And the approach that NCTC, we call it the National Counterterrorism, in short is NCTC, the approach that they've come up with is to ensure that everyone has a seat on the table, because the policy is cascaded in a way that it is able to engage children, the youth, women, and as I see it, I can confidently tell you that currently, I'm not saying that the threat is over, the threat is there, but we are also evolving, and we are able to look at the terrorism as a social phenomenon, not only as a securitized approach. So through the coordination with NCTC, working very closely with also the regional bodies and the global effort. For example, we have like the Global Counterterrorism Forum. So you're able to work in unison, and we are marrying in different aspects. But when we come down, they are cascaded according to...
Comes to terrorists and terrorism, there are cells, there are leaders, there's organizational structure, there is finance and economics. The chatter amongst these groups, is it that we have a decrease in terrorism activities, or is the surveillance a lot better? Let's take 12 years down the line. That ever since Westgate happened, it caught everybody by surprise, didn't it?
Yeah.
So are we saying that something of that scale and magnitude, I mean, of course there was Duzit after that, but are we saying that something of that scale and magnitude has not happened because this policy into surveillance and keeping things at bay is actually working?
Okay, I will quote I think two strategies. First of all, I will say the Global Counterterrorism Index shows that the number of casualties has decreased. But this doesn't mean that, I think this was Amani 2022, page 2. But this doesn't mean that the casualties have improved, the fatalities have decreased. But this doesn't mean that the terror activities have reduced. So what does it mean in our shift? It means that there's something that, much as the threat is still there, there's something that we are doing the right, that is protecting loss of more lives. And this could be more engagement with the communities, decreasing vulnerabilities, the code filling in the gaps that were there during the Westgate attack. For example, the gaps in coordination. There is good coordination between even the community and the security sector through coordination by NCTC. For example, there are sometimes dialogues within the communities where we have the security sector sitting with citizens. There is engagement, even in schools, children. And we need to understand that terror is also, it's not only physical, it's war of the mind, it's psychological. So we need to, when we are tackling terror, we don't need only to look at the physical threat. So in doing analysis, we can have multi-dimensional indicators. For example, just one, we can also look at the poverty index. How is it shaping our trends? We can look issues to do with porous borders, how our borders manned, and even the way we conduct vigilance. Are we doing it in an undiscriminatory way?
Are we?
Or are we profiling other people?
Are we? And that's a question. Are we doing it in a non-discriminatory way? Because you talk about economics, and I think about, so the most famous leader of Al-Shabaab was Osama bin Laden, right?
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, beg your pardon. Of Al-Qaeda was Osama bin Laden. But he was a wealthy man, extremely wealthy, trained by the Americans. He got all his training by operatives of the CIA. He was intelligent, impeccably so, very wealthy, and was able to recruit, and I believe Al-Qaeda still recruits until this point. But they are on the radar of anti-terrorist organizations. They are on the radar. They have an idea of what they are doing. Al-Shabaab, every time something happens, they claimed responsibility for Duzit.
Yeah.
They claimed in part responsibility for Westgate.
Even Garissa University.
In Garissa University, they claimed responsibility. They come out into the open and they say this. So it sometimes seems as though anti-terrorism effort is quiet. And I remember one professor who says, you know what? One thing that we can't do in the fight against terrorism is be quiet about the effort, because terrorism comes loud, with bangs and gunshots and fire. And it is not, terrorism does not take into consideration the feelings, the psychology of the people that it kills or maims. I remember the next time I went into a mall after Westgate, the lights went out and I had a shopping cart. The lights went out. I left the cart where it was. I made a beeline for the parking and I left. I didn't come to my senses until later, because in my mind, I did not want to relive, even for a minute, what happened at Westgate. So yes, it plays on the psychology of people. And it is a psychological war as well. But the question is, the fight against terrorism cannot be in policy and on books only. And that's what I'm asking. Have we left the policy and actually gone into the practice? Are there more cells operating? Is Al-Shabaab still very alive in Kenya? Are there things that are thwarted on a daily basis?
Has intelligence sharing improved?
Is it better?
Let me start also responding.
Or have the terrorists decided that they're not coming to Kenya anymore?
Let me start also responding to you. He started with a proverb, and I'll also start responding to you with a proverb. It doesn't mean that when you shout the loudest, that is when you are working. There is a lot that is going on at multiple levels, and policy maybe is just part of the effort in guiding, because I told you we are working in synergy and we are putting in different expertise and we have to be guided. So maybe policy is just for guide, but through, let me start from the local level. From Kenya, through the National Counterterrorism Center, we have youth engagements. And I started by mentioning about, for example, I told you in Garissa, they have their strategy and they're working closely with the county government. So maybe you will want to, and I mentioned something about we should not see it as a securitized. In fact, if anything, you were talking about the loud bombs. We should not think about the loud bombs. We need to work. We are working smart. That's what I would tell you. We are working smart. That's why you are seeing a decrease. If you look at the index, you see a decrease in casualties. We are working smart by using soft voices. We are not shouting at each other. We're using soft voices. Dialogues. Soft voices means dialogues in communities.
With who?
So through the nation. So there's something called whole society, whole government approach. That is coordinated. In Kenya, it's coordinated by the National Counterterrorism Center. And through the whole society, whole government approach, we are not only looking at terrorism as a security threat. Yes, the vigilance, the guns, all that, maybe they could be important at some level, but we are more preventive than reactive. So in prevention, in prevention, even when you're preventing diseases, you not hear a lot of noise, but there is training, capacity building, there is education about that is going on. There is programming that are addressing the different needs of community. For example, you go to some communities and see there is economic empowerment program. There is programs in schools to calm the young minds. So there is a lot going on, and it is not standardized. It depends on the specific needs of the county. For example, the county action plans. So the preventive might not be loud, and this tells us that we need to redefine security. When people hear security, they want to see guns. They want to see bombs. And if anything, I will also insist that we need also to realign budget in security. Security is you, me, her and you. So we need to redefine security. How do you, the whole perspective of security that it has to make noise. People who work smart don't make noise. We may think they're quiet, but we are working smart, and it being a sensitive issue, also being cautious. And also this is being strengthened by the regional coordination, the regional work that is happening also at the global. So the work trickles down from the global policy to the regional, and even I told you to the sub-county and even the ward.
So when you talk about, sorry, Okari, matters to do with security, intelligence sharing is one aspect that is very critical. And if you look at the Westgate attack, even when investigations are taking place, one could point where these people came from, where they were hosted, how they got into the country and all that. And it was found that these are people who lived with Kenyans, who never shared this information. And as we sit today, then intelligence sharing and the trust between the locals and police has to improve. Today, as we sit here, I remember there's a time I was having a conversation, and there is a security officer was saying, we've managed to thwart a lot that we just never come out to speak about. But on the other hand, if there is any terror attack that has happened, the terrorist would come out and shout about it. Propaganda videos would come out and talk about it. So why are we not combating it in the same way and send a message that we equally are working? We are sending the message that we are here for you. So two things. Has intelligence sharing between the public and the security agencies improved, and why are we not making noise on our successes?
We are making noise at it's a strategy that differs on how we make noise. Some people could be making noise by beating drums. Some people could be making noise by having soft tunes that are appealing. The way we make noise in our strategy is by appealing to souls and minds. So that's how we make our noise. And it is true, there's a lot that has been thwarted, and we celebrate our resilience through the mothers, the children in the community who are now the first line of defense in terrorism. Visit the villages, for example, go to Majengo, you'll be surprised how much people are aware about the threat, how much they are aware about surveillance. Tunasema tuwe tayari kulinda, hiyo sote ni lugha yetu tunaongea. So there is a lot. So we celebrate not this. We don't need to celebrate the same way. We celebrate differently. So we celebrate through the children who are safe in school. Those are our pointers. We celebrate the safer malls. Through the safe mall, we celebrate when I come out of here. I'm not very worried. And yes, the tension was there, but gradually is increasing. So the manner in which we celebrate could be different, but we are more on prevention. We are more on building trust among the different sectors, working in a more coordinated way, and not just here locally, and also not locally, also I told you, strictly from the global level. And also we create security timelines. For example, regular analysis. For the time we have the Westgate attack, what are our milestones? What are our weak points?
Yeah.
I have a question. In security, there's something called a hard approach and a soft approach in dealing with especially matters of terrorism. So the hard approach is talking about bullets, guns, bombs. The face of it is how then you also share intelligence. Then the soft approach is then how you engage in communities. And I've heard you speak this quite prominently about community engagement and all that. You earlier said there's that connection between terrorism and organized crime. And at policy level, those are some of the things that, you look at. Today, we have, cult leader Mackenzie, for example, who is actually facing terror charges for what happened in Shakahola. You can call that terrorism, well, that's the charge, or organized crime. There's a report, this is recent data from the Global Terrorism Index, because we've talked about data. This is the latest one, 2025, which talks about the Al-Shabaab terrorists, the most active militant group, at least we know in the region, was linked to 33 deaths in Kenya in 2024. That's a 57% decline from the year before. So the numbers are going down. So, despite all these gains that you've talked about, the collaborations, the multi-agency coordination and all that, officials are warning that terrorism remains an evolving threat. My question is, from what we know that happened at Westgate, and from all these reports we hear from the northern belt of our country, where we keep hearing Al-Shabaab have attacked our police officers or even the military around that area, what are the new emerging or evolving threats within this discussion? Away from what traditionally we know, there was what happened at Westgate, there is a Dusit. What are these new trends or evolving threats?
Yes. First of all, I will start by saying the terror threats, or let me start from a broader perspective, that peace and security is not static. And the reason why we have the regular analysis, the vigilance and all that is because I've been talking about working smart, we are aware. And it's true, I agree, there are emerging trends. For instance, let me start from the borders. From the border security. With our porous borders, not only Kenya, in Africa, there is infusion. For example, in a country like Mali, where there is Mali, or we can look at the ECOWAS region, there is infusion of gangs. For example, the Mujao infiltrating the borders and terrorism, things like money laundering. So it is infused in terrorism. It's like, that's why even in terrorism we have money laundering act. So that infusion of, it's like we are here, maybe we're making noise because we want tea, but he joins the noise. He doesn't want tea, he wants something else. So there are people, the gangs, they infuse the terror group, but maybe sometimes it is, for example, illicit economies, illicit trades, human trafficking, all that is intertwined. So these days people look at intersectionality. What are the intersectionalities? So one is I told you the gangs, and I gave example of for example, in Mali, how the gang groups which have maybe a different objective.
But what about Kenya? Okay. That's Mali.
Okay, and Kenya, and now I told you I'm starting from a broader perspective.
Okay.
So when we come to Kenya, we can look at trends like, I know you want to hear more about bombs. Today I not tell you about bombs.
I don't want to hear more about bombs. I just want to.
Okay,
because there's a conversation around adaptation to new technologies.
Yes.
The question of porous borders, it has always been there.
Yeah.
So that's not new, really. What I'm concerned about is, so we are seeing the reduction of these numbers in terms of deaths, which is a good thing, meaning there's something that is working. Now, my question is, looking at this data and obviously pushing for more reduction of these same numbers, the experts are actually warning, despite these gains, terrorism remains an evolving threat. And then my question was, what are these new threats, or what are these new emerging trends?
Perfectly, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
We have like the climate terror as synergy, how they work in synergy. For example, now if I'm to get, I started at a broader level, now I'm getting very specific. When you have, for example, issues to do with floods, how it relates to terrorism, we have issues to do with floods, people move around, the borders we have influx in our borders, and the checkpoints, the security checkpoints, during that time, and I will try to have very straight talk. We cannot pretend that there is no corruption. Corruption is there, even in the borders. So how the movement, look at the movement when there is influx, for example, influx caused by competition of resources as a result of flood. We can look at as one dynamic. So
I'm sorry, I need you to clarify that just a little bit. When we're talking about a natural disaster like a flood, and we're saying that through times like this is when it presents an opportunity for terrorists to carry out their operations?
Not that way. What I'm saying is, I'm talking about vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities means loopholes.
That breed.
That can allow. For example, if there is flooding, people are forced to move out of their homes, and they are, for example, people become homeless, and they move around, they find anywhere. Partly, the assumption, that's not an assumption, it has been proven that some people will go to different places, cross borders. So when people are moving in large numbers, the surveillance, the vigilance is lowered because of the influx. And we cannot underscore the aspect of maybe even corruption.
Okay, so if we know this, based on what you're saying, if we know this, that during natural disasters, for example, that is one area or that is one instance in which terrorism-related activities then would increase. If we know this, why isn't that now and you've just said that surveillance is lowered because of that? It would sound like a no-brainer then to me that because those who are in security positions that fight terrorism, that they are aware that there would be lower hands on deck or less hands on deck, that they would then up the game in terms of fighting. It seems to me that would be a strategy when dealing with terrorism efforts. No?
Okay, let me repeat what I have said so that it can also be clear to all of you. What I have said is, just one example of the evolving trends. There are many, but I wanted to explain this one faster. For example, the nexus between terrorism and climate impacts. When people are displaced, when there is competition for resources and people are forced out of their homes and they move in borders in large numbers, sometimes some things are factual. We should not deny facts. The likelihood, for example, if there is people coming here in pool, in large numbers, they are maybe terrified, they are scared. The likelihood that it will not be the four of us, we might be more.
Yes, so what I'm saying is this. If 12 years after such a big thing in Kenya happened, I mean, we have examples all over the world. 2002, for example, Guantanamo Bay was established by George W. Bush's administration to counter terrorism. Guantanamo Bay kind of, held until 2011. And then the president of the day said, you know what, we're going to use this thing to ensure that those who even imagine that they would be caught, suspected, caught red-handed, even if there was a whiff of something, they were all carted off to Guantanamo Bay. Whatever happened there, until today, we're still told the horror stories of Guantanamo Bay. But it set a precedent. It set a precedent that the war on terror was being taken to the doorstep of terror, because they were now aware the different circumstances under which this terrorism could be lived out and practiced. Now, I understand the examples that you're giving. My question is, if this is common knowledge, that during times of environmental crisis, during times of climate issues, that the likelihood of terrorist activities would increase, isn't the surveillance aware of that? Shouldn't we be saying that now we realize that during these times of environmental crisis, that is when the possibility of terrorist activities could increase, and therefore the security agencies are more attuned to this, and this and this and this is what they're doing? I would expect that that's where we are today.
Yes, and it is. When you are safe, when you see yourself and myself and many other people safe, I'm telling you, my sister, there are people who are working around the clock, including myself. There are people who are working so hard, but I don't know why we've been trained not to make noise, a lot of noise in terms of...
Because from what I understand, it's what the terrorists want. The terrorists, just the study of it, it's a short course done in it, is that terrorists want it. That's why when the terrorist activity has taken place, somebody doesn't take a day before they say, yes, it was us and we did it. They don't hide because it thrives in the openness. So to be able to shut it down, anti-terrorist groups have said many times that they keep it quiet because terrorism needs a space where it is out in the open for it to continue thriving. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yes. Let me connect with him, then I come to you. Today I'm all here for you. You can consume me as much as you wish. So let me first finish with him, and then I'll come to you. I know there was somebody who was to join me, so I'm taking it all.
Okay.
So when it comes to the evolving trends, we have also the cyber aspect of terrorism. We have the online spaces where there is propaganda, there is misinformation. And how this is handled is through programs such as coming with the counter narratives. So that is one of the evolving trend in security. We have the cyberspace. I'm not an expert here in all aspects. In terrorism, there are different experts. There are those. So maybe you'll find my strength more in where I am, but I can. But I have knowledge. I have an idea what is happening because we work in coordination. Okay. But I may not be able to give you very specific. I don't want to quote something that I'm not an authority.
Okay.
Yeah. So from where I sit, there is a lot of that is happening in terms of counter narratives to counter the propaganda and the misinformation. So that one is one of the evolving trends. And as she said, yes, they are smart, but we are also working smarter. And every day we anticipate something, a new dynamic. We anticipate a new dynamic, and we are ready. We are ready.
There was a time, I've covered enough of terrorism stories. There was a period where the common thread you'd find in terms of, because my question is towards radicalization and how that then is handled and how the communities are involved. Before, we had what then we would refer to as preachers then who are being financed for the propaganda that we've just talked about, and then radicalizing very, very young, vulnerable youth into joining some of these outfits, and in this case, Al-Shabaab. So you don't see a lot of that today, where it's very, very public, compared to a few years where we had the Abu Drogos of this world, where we had the Makaburis of this world, and other preachers who openly were radicalizing young people. They're not there anymore. So now the idea that then you have people online, you have a lot of young people online, and I'm drawing this because earlier you talked about going broad. When ISIS then came in, ISIS were very heavy on of the internet. They were very heavy on radicalizing a lot of young people through the internet space. In Kenya, I don't know whether you'll be able to answer this. I'm just wondering, in terms of monitoring activities from what you then call terror cells that are either within the country. And I remember there was a time the former CS Fred Matiang'i once said that the number of terror activities that the government in a week, especially in Nairobi itself, that they manage to handle. If then we will be told, if the government will make noise about this is what we did with this group, that we found some young men doing this is what we did, nobody would live in this city. We will all run away because it will be too scary because of the sheer numbers of what they handle. I'm just wondering, in terms of radicalization, because you're still tying this to organized crime, and you're saying there's a correlation. You talked about climate change as well, floods, and people moving to different areas. So in terms of radicalization, are we seeing a shift in terms of the people being targeted or how they're being targeted? Is there a change, and how is the monitoring being done?
I will respond to you partly where I can.
Okay.
In terms of radicalization, there is a shift. Why this is happening is because we have, when I say we.
Multi-agency.
Yes, multi-agency, because we are working together. We have empowered our youth. And even now, when it comes to terrorism, the security agencies, the ones we call the hard power, are now attuned to the soft power. They are working closely with the communities. We sit on the tables. They sit on the tables with the youth. They talk with the youth. They have dialogue. And as I mentioned previously, we cannot, let me now put it differently, we cannot kill an ideology with a bullet. We should not, as a nation, we should not create more fear to our people. Why? For example, as a mother, why should I tell my children of the threats that are surrounding our house? I should not. If anything, I should caution. So the government is right when they are not giving the statistics. That is the right way. Why should we affect our people? Because we need our people to be productive. I told you about the poverty index. We need our people to work. If just look at the mandamanos, people hear the mandamanos, people don't go to work. And if every day we will reveal people, the hard power or the intelligence will reveal the threats, you will not be here today. So I like, and the rationale of terrorism is to instill fear. One, to instill fear, to destroy the social fabric, and to destroy trust among us. So in cushioning, in handling that information, the statistics, I support that in a very, in security, you don't disclose everything. In handling it in a very sensitive way, it is good because you're protecting our people. The terrorists want to instill fear. Why should we instill fear in our people? Let our people work. Let's build the nation. Let our children go to school. And let those who are mandated to handle the threats. So we should not grieve. For that information, to get that information.
So Rema, I've been to that multi-agency. There's one, I don't know whether it's still there, in Embakasi, where there was the military intelligence. You have the Kenya police. Then you've got, for example, Kenya Red Cross and all other services that offer help in the event that an attack happens. The intelligence as well. I've been to those. I've been around those conversations, and I've been where they were doing this setup and how then the multi-agency was going to work in synergy. But the question that arose then, this is a few years ago, and I think the question is still relevant today, is in terms of budgeting. Budgets.
Yes.
Is there, because monitoring, countering narratives, propaganda, collecting intelligence gathering, all this require funding. And I know there are programs where, for example, Kenya gets assistance from the United States, for example. There are collaborations with other like-minded countries. But what's the situation currently? Is there adequate budgets? I don't know, again, I don't know whether I'm throwing this as a hard question to you, whether you'll be able to not necessarily give numbers, but from your perspective, when you are sitting together, all of you, and you're sitting together, you've got different needs, different requirements. Is there funding that's going into a lot of these programs? The reason I ask this is, I was in Bonny Forest several years ago with the Kenya police, and we were deep inside the forest. And we were generally investigating the infiltration of Al-Shabaab into the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And what then we found at that particular police station, Bodai police station, to be precise, there was no equipment. They didn't have enough police officers on the ground at that time. And the police station was not even fenced. And there were a lot of budget issues, the morale issues. And that was the situation then. Have things changed now? Can you say that besides sharing information, also resources are coming and they're assisting?
Wow, today you are giving me a lot of power.
It's a hard question.
No, let me just respond in where I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I started by saying you're giving me a lot of power.
Told you'll be in trouble today.
You're giving me a lot of power because I came here and said my work is more on strategy. I've trained more on my career mostly is generally on security strategy.
Okay.
And I've done a lot of work on counterterrorism. And so the different challenges that are happening, I know the challenges that are happening in Boni Forest, but the budget allocations in Boni Forest, I cannot answer.
I used that as I was using that as an example, Hema. My question was, because you're a chief strategist preventing violent extremism, counterterrorism, and all these things. So at policy level, because you talked about collaborations with all these other agencies, are there conversations around budgets? Are the budgets enough beyond sharing of intelligence, reports, working together, collaborating? Is there a flow of resources that is coming to these different agencies from your perspective?
Okay.
Yes.
In our lives, we can never say that it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, we have support because of the multi-sectoral collaboration.
Yes.
And support is not only monetary. Support comes in different forms. For example, the IGAD Center of Excellence, for example, I'll give an example, or their programs such as the WISE, Women Without Borders. They will invite maybe women or people from other areas, and they engage them in capacity building through their budget. Isn't that support or it's support? That is support.
That's support. That's good support.
So that is support. And I know there are conversations, I'm not sure how much they're confirmed, but even of budget realignments. For example, we've seen that we need to, we don't always need to fight. We need to also come together, strengthen our bonds, strengthen our trust. That's why we can see ATPU sitting with the youth. We have the DIF day, and we don't call it now anymore police force.
ATPU is arresting them.
No,
there's people who've been charged with terrorism in themselves today. But anyway,
yes, it depends with the level. If it is there's something called proportionality. If it is a higher threat, then we cannot compromise the integrity and security of our nation.
Yeah.
So if we look at the proportionality and you see that it is high, then do we save one person or we save 1,000 people? So in security, there's something called proportionality. So if if it's a national threat, yes, it's right when they are arrested.
Okay.
So we can complement one another in different ways. So there are issues to do with budget realignment. Sometimes we have maybe the police, they have their programs, they invite the youth. So in kind grant. So I would say it comes through different forms, and I cannot authoritatively tell you, for example, this is what this sector does, but there is that kind of support through in-kind grant. There is also direct grant, and where there are gaps, I think it is normal, and maybe people are working on them. Sometimes we don't get 100% at once.
Yeah, you'll get there eventually.
We get there eventually, but there is a lot that is going on, and this is manifested through the safety that we experience.
Yeah. Indeed.
I think we need to go back to your question very precisely.
We can't at this point because our time actually has come to an end. Just being able to look through some of these issues around terrorism and what has happened Westgate 12 years later. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this conversation this morning. Rehema Zaid Obui is a chief strategist preventing violent extremism and counterterrorism. And our time has come to an end on this, unfortunately. But we want to thank you for being here with us this morning and say a big thank you for that. It's now getting on 3 minutes past 8. Good morning.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor. And let's continue to build collective action. And we should never give up.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. A middle-aged police officer has been killed after suspected drug traffickers ambushed security personnel who were tracking them down in Isiolo's remote Meriti sub-county. The 45-year-old officer, reported to be based at a post within the sub-county, was among colleagues who had been deployed on Friday afternoon to pursue suspected drug traffickers on one of the most notorious routes used by the cartels involved in the multi-billion shilling illegal trade. One of the routes that is used to ferry the narcotics, mainly bang, from southern Ethiopia runs down to Meriti sub-county in Isiolo. The officer was taken to Meriti sub-county hospital, but on arrival, the medics said the officer had already died. UDA primaries will today take place in Nandi and Nyamweya counties. Head of elections Anthony Mongra says that the process that has already taken place in several constituencies has so far been free and fair.
On Monday, you proceed with the nomination in Jamudu and Kaptagune ward in Nandi County and in other 3 wards in Nyamweya. And this marks a significant milestone for our party as we embrace technology, and we would like to urge the other parties to copy the success of today and even the IBC.
This event comes as Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has come under sharp criticism after Malava parliamentary aspirant Ryan Njeri, son of the late MP Malulu Njeri, elders and locals accused him of betrayal and interference in the UDA primaries. Ryan, who considered defeat in the hotly contested nominations, claimed Mudavadi rigged him out in favor of his preferred candidate, David Ndakwa, the current West Kabras MCA and Kakamega County Assembly Minority Leader.
Tulikuwa na mheshimiwa Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, tukataka tuelewane, lakini kwa maono ya rais akasema twende kura mchujo. Na hii wakati yote sijaona mkono wa rais mahali popote, sijaona mkono wa Faruk mahali popote, sijaona mkono wa mtoto wa serikali, hata wenye chama wa serikali UDA, sijaona mkono wao mahali popote kujaribu kusaidia mtu fulani. Na kitu cha kushangaza, watu wa ofisi ya Prime Cabinet Secretary, nini hii kubwa mlikuwa mnafanya Malava kupiga kijana mdogo kama mimi? Mbona mko acha tu Malava wafanye uchaguzi kivyao? Mheshimiwa Prime Cabinet Secretary, mzee alikuwa rafiki yako wakati wa earthquake, ulitorokwa na kila mtu, wakabaki na mzee peke yake. Nini hiki kubwa ilikufanya wakuja hapa kutatiza siasa hii ya Malava? Kura ambayo rais amesema watu wa Malava wachague wenyewe. Nini lilikutuma? Tumekubali, lakini hatasahau. Watu wa Malava wameona na watasahau.
Well, if you plan to visit a private hospital today, then this is your news. Well, private hospitals across the country will from today require cash payments from patients covered by the Social Health Authority following a directive by the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya. Rufa said the move was prompted by delayed and unsettled payments from SHA, which it said had made it unsustainable for hospitals to continue offering services on credit. The association, which represents private hospitals nationwide, said the decision was necessary to ensure facilities remain open, essential supplies are available, and staff can continue serving patients. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting, people went there, sat, listened, looked at him, there was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis. Yeah. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it.
If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 9 minutes after 8 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. On this Monday, the 22nd of September, Ndu, Dennis with you today, full house and looking into issues that matter. And we'll get into a conversation this hour coming off of remembering Westgate 12 years on. And now we get into what many folks are asking questions about, that what's going to happen in another about 1 year, 5 months, 1 year, 7 months in Kenya, considering the election. And there are many questions about processes. And we're having that conversation this morning. Two gentlemen join us in the hot seat. Marcus Agenga is the program coordinator of ELOG, which is the Elections Observation Group. Good morning, Marcus.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
All right, thanks.
Karibu. Karibu sana. Also joining us is the head of commerce and press at the High Commission of India, Rishab Kumar Rawar, is here with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
There's always the first time for everything, so don't worry. Yeah. Thank you for being here. You're in the hot seats of the Situation Room, and we'll get into a conversation this morning about how it's done. Ballots and trust, essentially, is what we're talking about. What Kenya can learn from India's electoral journey, and also looking at how we've been able to carry these processes through previously. Both of you gentlemen, we welcome you in a way in which we normally do. We go around the African continent every week. We land in a different country, and we come back with their proverbs. Dennis does, at least. Yes. And he's literally actually come off a plane. So we would like to share that proverb with you. He'll tell you where we are. And we'd love to get your interpretation of it. All right.
So today we are in Ivory Coast, also known as Cote d'Ivoire. And fun fact about it is 40% of cocoa beans that the world consumes comes from that country. So there's a high possibility, guys, that the chocolate might just originated from Ivory Coast.
Very possible.
Eh? Yeah. And then so we also another fun fact about Ivory Coast. When you hear Drogba, you know Ivory Coast. When you hear Gavinho, you know Ivory Coast. When you hear big Yaya Toure, Ivory Coast.
Yes.
Kenya. When you hear Okari,
Ogam,
Okari, you know Kenya. But let's go to the proverb today. A single tree cannot make a forest. A single tree cannot make a forest. I'll start with you, Balozi. How would you interpret that? What does that mean?
Oh, that's a profound quote.
Mm-hmm.
What comes to mind, I'll say, is that a forest is much more about an independent unit. It's about how the tree, the animals, the plants, the flora, fauna, the whole ecosystem comes together. I'll say it's about how a lot of these units come together, help each other, support each other, and that's how it thrives as a system. So what I take away from it is 1 and 1 is more than 2. There are some synergies that come together and increase the value of it.
Yeah. So how would you interpret that?
Precisely like I said, I think for me it's the place of a community in an enterprise. For you to be able to achieve much, for you to be able to get more done, you need to be more than just one person. So the need for community collaboration, coordination amongst the various components of a society, in this case trees, then becomes important.
Important, well said.
Indeed, absolutely. And even as we go into this conversation, I'm just thinking already overwhelming numbers, and then how are you able to sort it out? We're going to look at the Indian subcontinent and how elections are carried out, but we're going to do that coming from the Kenyan experience and also looking into a future experience that Kenya hopes to have. So we'd like to start with you, Marcus, and you've been looking into observing elections in Kenya over time. Let's look at procedure and numbers. How has that operated in the past? Kenya tops has never gone beyond 21 million votes. Never. Beyond 20 million votes, regardless of who have registered or who not, right? So we're talking 20 million votes. Maybe all of those votes are cast in one day, and maybe it takes 3-4 days, 5 days, and then you start to hear maybe some days, 24 hours later, 3 days after that. If it goes into court, then we're in the whole thing for another 2 weeks. But more or less, about a week or so, all of this happens over time. From an observer point of view, and then, one of the followers, how would you say that elections are carried out in Kenya? And I'm not talking procedure, I'm talking overall general feeling.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's interesting that the numbers you're talking about. So in terms of numbers, we are about 22 million registered voters.
Yes.
In terms of how we conduct our elections, generally speaking, in the country, so we do 6 ballots on a single day. Important to note is that this is something that is not very unique to our country, but it's very unique, generally speaking, for first-time voters. So we do 6 ballots. We have the county elections and the national elections happening on the same day. So it's considerably a very massive exercise, comparative to the region. The second thing that I would like to say is that, again, the commission, that is the election management body, the IEBC, is the body that is mandated to conduct these elections. So it may outsource the officials, get hold of the polling officials, either teachers, farmers, traders, to support that exercise. And up to 500,000 election officials are engaged on the elections day.
Okay.
So it's a massive training that is done at the national level, cascaded at the regional levels, then they're deployed on the elections day. Then, of course, the election officials will include not only the presiding officers and their deputies, but also clerks, the police officers. So it is an exercise that is well planned and well thought through. Of course, a number of actions then occur, including educating the voters on what not to do and what to do, looking at the procedures in terms of observers, media, and other actors and agents are also allowed in a polling station. So it's essentially in my view, as an observer, a very transparent process where everyone is allowed. Once, if you are accredited by the commission, then you have an access to these processes, and you can monitor them, you can observe them, and of course probably give you a view in terms of their compliance to the legal framework and other institutions and other international best practices. Yes.
Okay, Rishabh, let's go to the Indian subcontinent, which give or take 1 billion people. All right, and an election, you have one for regional body county. What would equate to a county in Kenya, that is larger than Kenya in terms of number. That's just one area. Give us your overall look about how an election is carried out, and how many registered voters do we see in Kenya, and how long does it take for people to go and cast their ballots?
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. Since you were just comparing the counties to a state to the whole of Kenya for numbers, I'll just say our population is around 1.4 billion, of which in the last elections in 2024 we had over 960 million eligible voters.
So these are registered?
These are registered voters.
Okay, all right.
And the people who voted were a little over 650 million.
650 million votes. All right.
Went and cast their vote.
Okay.
So it's like the whole of African population going to vote together, just for comparison. And how the vote is cast, I'll say it starts before dawn. And in terms of the processes and organization, it's very similar to what Marcus just said. We have the Election Commission of India, which is the overarching body that looks after the organization of elections, and from there it flows down. It's a constitutional body, and we also, for instance, Marcus just said that 500,000 people are in the part of organizing the process. In India, that's 15 million people who are involved in the process of getting the election done.
In one day, this election happens?
No, this election doesn't happen in one day, of course, because the numbers are so huge. For instance, in the 2024 election, which just happened last year, we had a little, it was around 44 days that the election went across 7 phases. Because, again, these are many people, and India is also a very, very diverse country, right? So geographically, these are places which are very distant from each other. So it's a phase-wise election. And but for one constituency, it's designated that a person will go on this day. That day is a holiday for us. You go in the morning, you cast your vote, and then you come back. That's more or less how it looks like.
Marcus, you hear about 900 million registered voters, and then you hear 600 million individuals who've come out to vote, and you still look at the logistical aspect of it all. In Kenya, we talk about 22 million people, and the numbers who came out to vote still low if you compare. But then again, in managing the logistics of these, one would argue, is always a nightmare. And with increased numbers in the coming elections, that still is going to be a nightmare. And one would want, if we just compare how Balozi will respond on how India has managed to handle the logistical nightmare, and how Kenya should learn from them, or vice versa.
I think just before we started, we had this conversation with him in terms of you're talking about over 900. You say 900 million registered voters, out of which you have about 650 million Indians standing out to vote. So you're talking about now the strategic materials alone. To transport the ballot boxes, the ballot papers, to print them, the stamps, assuming they use the same thing that we use. That is, in terms of scale, in terms of planning, in terms of thinking, in terms of transportation is massive exercise. Unlike they told me during our chit chat that unlike our country where we have to outsource the polling officials, in India everybody's involved. You told me civil servants are used in managing these elections. You can't try that in our country, that you have a chief or a police or an OCS or you have someone else coming to run your elections.
Why?
Kenyans don't do that. We don't involve government officials in our elections. So
is it a legal issue or
it's a trust issue? It's a trust issue. So again, maybe we'll say it. I think in terms of with the 22, look at even the printing of the ballot boxes papers. I think I would like to hear how they do their printing, what they print. In country or out country, that is also very important. But in our case, in terms of logistics, it is a nightmare. So you talk about 6 ballot papers, assuming that in every polling station in our country, the cap is at 700 voters per polling station. So you talk about 700 times 6 ballots. That then of course then you have a few excesses here and there for the cases of where a person might need more than one, and then you transport them across the 44,000 plus polling stations spread across the 1450 electoral wards in our country. So the commission must hire. It must hire. Yet government has vehicles also. So we hire transport companies to transport these materials. You also hire police officers to help in terms of security of these materials. You also hire where they are stored. So outsourcing this is as a cost implication, but also a trust implication.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if I may, how did, because one thing that jumps out at us right now is the trust issue, and it wouldn't just be India, that there are other jurisdictions. The United States, for example, runs its entire election on a volunteerism program, whereby their folks, your normal Joe or Jane, could actually sign up to be an election volunteer in the next election, and they get their accreditation and they're good to go. So how did the Indian subcontinent, whether it's a governance issue, how did you get people to trust that somebody could be working in another capacity and not necessarily have to be a member of staff of the Electoral Commission to work in an election? How do you do that?
Right. I think it has a lot to do with the history and from where we have come. Because in India, the civil services are independent, and enjoy a lot of trust from the people. And by civil servants, I mean all parts of the government machinery. So these are police officers, these are, as you mentioned, clerks, and these are administrative officers, these are revenue officers. So it's a whole of a government exercise that happens. Because, again, if you look at the numbers, when I say we are looking at 15 million people who are involved in the process of organizing the elections and going to different places of the country, you really can't have that many people as volunteers, because then that includes, because in India it will be, we have more trust in the government system and the people that are in place than the volunteers, I'd say. Because it's mandated, it's structured, and these people have been trained, know what they're doing. And at the end of the day, it's the trust comes from the fact that these elections have happened many times in the past, over the last more than 75 years of our electoral democracy. So that trust has built over time, I'd say.
Okay.
Marcus, when you talk about trust and civil servants, one would always say at any given point that a civil servant will always speak the language of the government. And we talk about, say, let's take, for example, the 2027 general election, that if President William Ruto would be running for second term, one would assume that the civil servants would be singing to his songs. So pretty much the trust aspect of trusting a civil servant to deliver that throw that out of the door. But here we're talking about an election that civil servants are there, they know their role, they are independent, and they do their job. In Kenya, the electoral agency itself is independent, and one would want to say it is independent. But then again, it is the body that is mandated to deliver the elections to Kenyans. So how do we then as a country deal with the trust issue and ensure that whoever has been given the mandate to deliver, whether it's prescribed in the constitution, that IEBC, and even if it's hiring or whatever, that Kenyans will get to trust them and that they will offer a credible election?
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, the major problem we have in our country in terms of trust, you trust your M-Pesa systems, you trust your teacher, you trust your doctor, when you go, your pilot, the matatu driver in the morning that takes you from town to your place. You know that when you enter into that matatu, you will get home, or your Uber driver.
Yeah.
But the only place that I've seen Kenyans have quite mistrust on is on elections. And a number of things happen here. First is our history, where elections have been heavily contested. So the contestation around elections is a big issue. Number two, again from history, you have to understand that Kenyans are coming from 1992, 97, 2002, and then 2007. Without, when we never had this new constitution that we're having today. So a lot of mysteries were around our elections, a lot of opaqueness were there in these elections. So that mindset from Kenyans is taking so long to come out from. So they don't trust you. We don't trust you. We will label you already, depending on how you speak, what language you speak, where you come from, is a big issue on elections, because elections is about resources. So when these resources are unevenly distributed across the country, so Kenyans are very suspicious on the person who wields power. That's the first thing. So the second thing is also about institutions that Kenyans have put to themselves to manage these elections. The IEBC is just one of those institutions that are supposed to help in these elections. We think IEBC is the only body that delivers elections. IEBC must work, as you say, the tree. Elections is like a tree, Ivory Coast. IEBC is just in a forest. You said a forest, isn't it? Yeah. So the election, for you to deliver these elections, you must have a forest idea where the National Police Service play their role, the media yourselves play your role, the IEBC play their role, that at the end of the day, then elections is delivered according to what we have put down in our constitution. So when these institutions do not do what they're supposed to do, like you saw the split screen in 2022, when you see the police handle or mishandle voters, when you see IEBC officials in one way or the other mishandling voters, then we have a big problem. So the trust deficit in institutions also plays a very key role. So, like other countries, I was in Ghana in December. I was shocked, maybe Kumar will tell us, I was shocked in Ghana that the ballot paper boxes are in the police stations. They were in the police station, the box were after guys had voted, they were all heaped in a nearby polling station. There was no problem. Police were just there, the community was there, the PO was just there. There was just an open process. So the trust in these institutions is critical. And I think for me, that's how we need to learn. How do we trust the institutions that are supposed to deliver in elections? But also even ourselves. I think trust is, I don't know whether trust is a moral problem. It's a moral problem. I don't think it's a legal problem. Even though, because to what extent, India has, you guys use electronic, you deploy electronic voting, EVMs, voting machines. We have a similar thing in Canada. We employ the KIMS. You have a paper audit trail, an audit trail. We don't have it. So, you can have as many safeguards to enhance trust. But even at a personal level, trust must be, you also earn it, by the way. You also earn it.
But there must be a modicum of it at the very beginning for you to start.
Exactly.
It must be half full at least.
Yeah.
And so now all these other processes then lead you to fill up the tank.
I agree.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So in this case, interesting, but just bouncing off of what you're saying, to then say, Balozi, if we are saying that across the subcontinent, this election is happening over 44 days, is bringing in 15 million people to essentially deliver an election for 650 million people who voted, right?
Yeah.
Is the outcome usually one that can be audited? And people can say, yes, this happened at this place and this happened at this place and we're okay. If we look at what, and then Marcus can attest to as well, you have all of these forms. There's 34A, there's 34B, there's 34C, and then 34D is the one that the chairman of the Electoral Commission essentially will open up at the place we call Bomas. I don't know where it's going to be now that Bomas no longer exists, but okay. And that's held up and the election is, the result of the election is announced. Kenyans generally don't have an issue with the election for 5 of the candidates on the paper. Usually that's okay. 1,600 elections are carried out. But there is a problem with one, and that is the position of president. So for some reason, this process doesn't lack trust. There's no trust deficit for MCA, Member of Parliament, Women Rep, Senator and Governor. But there's a problem with the president. So anybody and all these people for whom there's no trust deficit, everything is more or less okay. But then at this level, which happens to be on the same ballot paper, there is an issue. Now, I don't know if that is historical, but then what processes are there to safeguard what might be an issue when somebody says, well, I'm okay voting for Dennis and I don't see a problem, but then you guys somewhere have mucked things up in the process of selecting Dennis as president. Do you have that? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Right. That's a good question. So I'll just take a minute and expand a bit more on the EVMs that we are talking about, the electronic voting machines.
Yeah.
So these are small, robust machines that are designed in-house in the country, and they have been present since the 2004 general elections at a national level when we talk about. And these machines are not connected to anything outside. They are not connected to internet. They don't even need electricity. They are battery powered, robust machines.
Okay, so nothing. Okay.
And so over the years, over the past 20 years in the general elections, there have been many tests, there have been hackathons, there have been, the Supreme Court has come up with directives, and it has been well established that the EVMs are tamper-proof. So once you cast your vote, and also I'll come back to the paper audit trail, and just to paint a picture of how the voting looks like. So you go there, you go to the polling station, you go in front of your EVM, the voting machine, you see these options, A, B, C, D, E.
These are of the individuals you're selecting,
candidates of the particular political party. You press the button that you want to vote for, and then a paper slip is shown on the EVM. It comes up, you see who you have waited for, it remains there for 7 seconds and then it drops down. And it remains in the EVM. On the day of the counting, there's a directive by the Supreme Court that of the whole state where the election, assembly elections have happened, 5 are randomly selected, and from there all the paper audit trails are correspondent with what has been recorded with the EVM. So there's a check and balance. And of course, I think like Kenya, when the voting happens, it's live, real time. People can see in which constituency what vote has happened and what is the numbers like. So I'll say that it all comes from rules, data, and eyes, because everyone's looking at it.
Okay, so it's not possible that what is collected in the EVM is what is collated, and it is not possible to give a number, even one above or one below, that is different from what is collected in the EVM.
No, it is not, because it remains in the EVM. The counting happens through the EVM. Nothing is taken out, nothing goes in. It remains.
Nobody is standing saying 1, 2, 3?
No.
Okay. I'm just asking because, okay. So this machine, like you said, hackathons have happened. It's fully tested. So you get to the point whereby this machine is handling all the counting. So long as there is a human on the other side and it's verified and they make the selection. So everything remains in this.
Yes.
Is there a server somewhere where all of this information is held?
No. So on the election day, counting happens across multiple regions in the country where from different polling booths, the EVMs are stored at a central location in, say, a city or a town in a secure location. The Election Commission gives a specific date and time when the counting starts. And then the counting starts in all of these places simultaneously. And they are not connected to...
simultaneously?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, because they're stored in different
different places, and then they are not connected to a server where the data will be uploaded. It remains there, the data comes out, and there are election observers, agents, everyone is there, and everyone can see it real time, and the count keeps
so truly the result of an election is counted, announced, and remains at the polling station, as it were, at the station where this thing is stored.
Yes.
Okay.
You see, now there's something I want to say. Yeah. You see, I think we need to, in terms of, because we said we are learning from each other. I think we can learn from India. That even though these two countries generally have we deploy technology in our elections, and we know, and now this tells us something, that technology in itself does not enhance trust. In itself, it does not. I think the reason why we agreed to use this or go this way was to somehow deal with the trust deficit in our elections. And I'll come back to the question she was asking about why amongst the elections we have a problem with the presidential election. But back to what Kumari is saying, the question around the audit, the voter verifiable audit trail, it allows, the way I've seen it, I think it allows the citizen, the voter, to understand, to see how is that the vote that he casted or she casted, it counts.
Right.
It's a big thing. So I think while we have Kimskit as a country, the controversy still persists in terms of, or you saw in even the last Supreme Court issues, there were this question around fake areas. But I think there's need for us as a country to then adopt a visible verification mechanism, not just digital process. But I think how that the opaqueness. The question is the polling station, the voter at a polling station votes, no problem. The results are then scanned and sent to the tallying center. So there is always this opaque level this darkness between the time the scanned, it's scanned and sent, and what you see. There appears to be a problem there. So that for me is, if an audit trail could be, we could learn from India as a country, this very verifiable audit trail, which then allows us to confirm that our vote truly counts, is something that I think we can employ as a country, because truly, yes.
I think, Marcus, well, I agree with what you're saying. My question to Kumar is, and I want to give context before I ask this question. The trust deficit is not on election day, actually. Yeah. What we have is a history in Kenya where there are trust issues first and foremost from how the commission that manages the election is set up to begin with. We start from there. So you have IEBC, how it's been formed, how it's been constituted. There are trust issues. Then we start talking about civic education. We talk about registration. On election, all this is happening before election day. Now, we come to election day, 6 a.m, and I've covered enough elections where now we are covering live from everywhere in the country. There are certain sections of this country where ballot boxes don't even arrive up until even midday. An election is supposed to start at 6 a.m. So you're dealing with those kind of issues. Then there is the part where somebody goes to vote and then they're told they don't actually exist in a register. And they've queued for hours waiting to vote. And the argument is, but I registered, but they can't be found. So there's a question of register. And we've always had, people talking about, let's open this register. Are we going manual? Are we going digital? Then the voting happens. After the voting happens, Ndu was lifting the hand at the polling. So there's the lifting of the hands. This number of, this person has voted, person has been voted in. So people are counting manually. So it's happening, all that. Then there is transporting this now to the tallying center, where there's a trust issue. People don't also trust how this thing is being transported. Then there is now the numbers that now we now receive. The numbers are adding up. There's a person X, presidential candidate A, has received this number of votes. Then there is the question of there's a server that does not exist in this country. This server exists somewhere else where these numbers are going in there. So my question, Kumar, is explain how India then manages to break this trust issue from how is your commission then constituted, number one. Then how is this process of voter the voter registration? How are these votes? You've said I think the EVMs. You if I remember, you said they are designed in India. So we have also a trust issue of where all these things are done. Everything for us is outsourced. How do you print your own ballots? Do you get your own system? Everything is within India. Do you outsource anything? And the issue of the commission.
Okay. So I'll answer the second question first. Everything is done within India. For instance, even the election ink that we use once you cast your vote, I think it happens here in Kenya as well, on the forefinger of your left hand. The election ink is also made in India. And this is actually exported to other countries as well, because we have done such a good job at it. And on the aspect of the election commission, the structure and how it's set up, so under the Article 324 of our constitution, this body was made. So the first elections happened in independent India was in 1952. Since then, this body has been leading the preparation and organization and conduction of the elections. So the election commission has 3 commissioners, and one of them is the chief election commissioner. And the election commissioners are nominated by a select panel of 3 people. And from there, it goes to the parliament, it gets approved there, and then finally it's nominated by the President of India. And the election commissioner is independent, has a lot of power during the elections. They can pull anyone up and say, oh, why you're not doing a job. Anywhere, if there's any, I'll say, some irregularities, they have the power to summon people. They also act as the custodian and safeguardian of the elections. The third aspect of what you said about the voting rolls, and also in India we have this thing called the election photo identity card called the EPIC. So everyone has to have an election card, and before the elections you go there. Actually, the election people come to your houses. They verify. This is months in advance of the election. They verify that this person is there and he'll be voting from.
Wait, people go to houses?
People go to houses and see how many people are there. So there's a full, it's months and years of preparation that goes into one general election.
So this does not happen a year before the election?
No, this happens months before the election. Because again, the scales are so big and the population is so large that you have to prepare and plan everything well in advance. Apart from, again, I believe the question there again was on trust and how the government functions. So there's this thing called the Model Code of Conduct in the Indian elections. As soon as the elections are announced, the MCC, we call it comes into place. And then the government can't campaign. There can be no advertisements by the government. So the government sort of takes a step back and lets the election commission come into the front seat.
And you said how many form the election commission of India?
Three people at the helm. three election commissioners.
So this is the chairperson.
Yes,
and
two others.
Two others.
Yes.
Is there anybody else who works within the commission?
There are many people, but these three people are the one who. So it's a whole. It's an organization. Okay. There's secretarial staff and all, of course, and there's a whole hierarchy. But these three people head the commission.
Okay, one would imagine that in an election, and as you see that it has been tried and practiced over time, that the intention is to want to get better at what you do, to be more transparent, to be more accountable, to be more efficient, in making it so. And we have seen that as the world has changed. I mean, we are currently in the communication and technology age. That's where we are, and that's how the world operates. And I see a question that has come through for a lot of people, and I guess this is something for both of us here, because it is clear that human error, unfortunately, is an ingredient that then leads towards dissatisfaction, and that unfortunately, in many cases, has led towards conflict. We can't run away from that. That the human element or the human aspect will often bring about mistakes, whether they are intentional or otherwise, that will lead to some kind of dissatisfaction. Technology is secure. It has been designed to be that way. And one of them is blockchain. Blockchain as a way that stores information and that you can then go pull it out, check it, it can store it for however long. Is this something that is being employed or can be employed? If we look at it, we'll start with you, Marcus.
I think it can be employed, or rather it should be employed, because of the fact that, remember, I don't know, I mean, you're talking about India, you talk about 900 plus million voters. So if you are to give room for human error, it will be very massive. But I think the fact that the many safeguards, and I think that's why even in Kenya, when Dennis was asking about, you count, you put, I think it's part of safeguarding. I saw that also in Ghana, by the way. They do the counting. They do this. And actually the people count. It's not even the PO. The people actually count.
They're all there counting.
They're all there counting.
Yeah.
Imagine counting 650.
Yeah, so you can imagine. So it's serious. So I think the blockchain thing is important. I think the IBC. I think we are moving there. That we may not get to where India is, at least now. I mean, maybe in 2027, maybe about 30 million voters. We might get there, and maybe in India, probably when we get to 30, they might be getting into probably close to 1 billion voters. So I think these safeguards must be employed, and especially in an era where mis and disinformation is increasingly becoming a big issue. And maybe at some point, Kumar could tell us how they're dealing with the questions around mis and disinformation around electoral processes, and that's a big issue. And the other thing I wanted to say just about the way Dennis was asking about the onboarding of the commissioners, so that you see, and I like the idea you brought, that the question of trust, the trust is something that is built over time. It begins with how you onboard commissioners, on how you do the processes themselves. How did you register voters? How do you educate voters? How did the political party primaries, how are they conducted? Because Kenya is we are big on party primaries. India is, but not as big as ours. I was doing some research there about last evening. And it is highly centralized. Ourselves, we do our party primaries, and it could be very chaotic. So that entire process, because elections is both a process and an event. So this process has also suffered a trust deficit. Ultimately, the goal will be also a big issue. So you have 3 commissioners, we have 7. So that, again, you imagine, Dennis, that you have for 900 million plus voters, you have 3. For 22 million, you have 7. Interesting.
Interesting comparisons.
Yeah.
Back to that question that Undu was asking Kumar about technology, because India is also very big in technology, blockchain. How do you adopt or even adapt to new technologies when it comes to elections? Do you always, because in Kenya, for example, every election, there will always be something that is introduced. Last election, we had a situation for purposes of trust and transparency, where at the polling station, once somebody has voted, and then the transmission now of those results from 34A, we were able to have actually access. There was a link where you could go, see the forms, see how the numbers are coming in. How does it work in India?
So on the question of blockchain, as Indu just mentioned, I'll say that's an interesting idea. It's not being used in India right now, but it's also fairly new technology.
Yeah.
It needs to be tried, tested. Also, people have to have trust in the technology, that it's tamper-proof, how does it work? And first of all, they also need to understand what the technology exactly is. So before things are put on the implemented in an election, which is the most fundamental part of a democracy, it should be tried, tested, and everyone should be satisfied that it works comfortable with it. So that takes time. So technology that has just come in over the last decade, I think it's a bit too early. Let it mature a bit, and then it might be used in the elections. But it's.
I mean, when you talk about election, everything pretty much is all on cost of running elections. In Kenya, we're talking about 61 billion shillings. I've just checked. India is around 100,000 crores, which is approximately $7 billion. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I'm right or wrong. And we look at, does India print physical papers? Everything is digital.
No, we don't print ballot papers.
So no ballot printing.
So no budget for papers.
No budget for papers, right?
Also saves a lot of trees.
Environment.
That is very important. So here we talk about an election that is both digital and physical, because there is the paper. The reason why we have to keep on counting 1 till 100,000 until when we finish. But how much has India saved in terms of going digital, in terms of also saving time, in terms of the election, and what can Kenya learn from what India is doing? You could go.
Right. Thank you, Dennis, for the question. I'll say that I don't have the figures on me, how much does it cost and how much we have saved, but the objective in mind when we put in the EVMs was, of course, to ensure that the elections are as transparent as they can be. They can't be tampered with. So I do, off the top of my head, I don't think reducing the cost was the motivating factor towards moving towards EVM. But I'm sure of if I just apply common sense, I believe it must have reduced the cost a lot, because also it reduces a lot of logistics costs. It reduces printing of ballot papers, and a lot of the administrative costs are reduced as well. But I can't give you a figure as such.
Yeah. So Marcus, here now we talk about gotten rid of the papers. There is no printing papers in London, then transporting it. Then the question of how it arrived here, is it safe? Has it been tampered with? That does not exist. But in Kenya, this is what we deal with every day, which then brings in the question of trust that everything that has been printed is up to par. Because I remember when during the voting day, different ballot papers were found in different constituencies in the country, and we saw how the delay that happened. What must Kenya learn in terms of going digital, and how that will save time and bring in trust?
And to just give more meat to his question, I was looking at statistics here. There's a report that is talking about how much countries then are spending on each voter. And Kenya is the highest donor
in the world.
Yes. So Rwanda spent 112 shillings per voter. Uganda, it's 1,400. Zambia, it's 600. Nigeria is 1,000. And then Kenya is 2,000
per voter.
This is per voter, tying into what Aseto is asking.
Yeah, but then I think there's a debate in terms of comparative elements. So, for example, Rwanda doesn't have 6 elections on one day. So I think there have been debates even within the Electoral Commission among election professionals in the country. When you say our elections are expensive, You say 2,000 per voter compared with, say, 112 shillings. So what is your benchmark? Do they do things that we do? Do they print ballot boxes outside the country, papers outside the country? Do even their ballot papers, do they have the same security features as Kenya's?
Do they print at all?
Do they print at all? Exactly. So I think at some point we'll need to have a discussion about the cost of elections and the parameters we are using to compare. And we as ELOG addressed the question around the cost of elections. We've done 2 studies actually. But then we have asked the same question over and over again. You can't compare Kenya and Uganda in terms of cost of elections.
Why?
Because of our elections are different. You only compare people who are of similar.
So you can't compare apples and oranges.
You can't.
So you'd rather
compare an apple with an apple.
An apple with an apple, even if it's a different species.
Exactly.
So, Marcus, one would say, if you look at majorly, our printing a ballot paper is expensive because of the security features that are there, and this is because we do not trust each other during voting. The reason why you must have all these security features.
Exactly, and that for me is what I was going to the same question you had asked earlier. The Electoral Commission of India, and Kumar, you can, I think it enjoys very massive, not only constitutional safeguards, but also massive public trust. So if you trust the referee, the way you trust your daktari, if you go there and say you have malaria, you will take those dawas and go home. I think if we can have, if we Kenyans can, and I think this is a very sensitive matter. If Kenyans can trust the Electoral Commission, I think it will reduce significantly the amount of money we spend in our elections.
Okay.
Yeah, in Ghana, for example, they print their ballot papers in Ghana.
In Ghana, yes.
And there were last-minute changes when I was there. In Kenya, imagine you printing the ballot papers in River.
Never.
It will be it's a disaster.
Or you tell people on the 20s, on the second Thursday or second Tuesday in June, that you want to make a change to the ballot paper because one security feature was off. People will go to war.
They will go to war.
Because there's a question. So now in the and this is probably if our last question because of what time then does allow. When we talk about partisanship, when you look at an electoral body, how is that body selected? And we're not necessarily comparing apples and oranges here. We are talking about lessons that can be learned from other jurisdictions. Because here, the selection of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, if they were walking down the road and the presidential convoy passed and the president looked in the direction of the gentleman who was walking and that person happens to be the one who was selected, we will say, no, there's partisanship here. So how has it been that the electoral body is actually independent? Here, political parties have a say in who is a part of the selection panel that will select the commissioners of the IEBC. Already people are saying, no, they had a hand in it. How do you then steer clear of any kind of partisanship when it comes to the selection of an electoral body? Kamar?
Right. So the process of selection is also by law. These are laws that have been established, passed by the parliament, and have been heard by the Supreme Court, approved by the Supreme Court as well. So I'll just give one, since we are a bit low on time, I'll just give you one element of it, that the selection panel that nominates who should be a part of the election commission also includes the leader of the opposition party. So they also have a say.
Okay.
So there's a sort of the party in government and the party in opposition, all of them come together and they agree on, oh, this person should be the chief election commissioner. There are also safeguards against removing that a particular person who has been in the election commission, because this again has to go through the process of impeachment. At the end of the day, has to be removed by the president. So these are all things that have been in place for a fairly long time and have evolved over time as and when things have changed, and therefore they enjoy a lot more trust in the process. I'll just add one more thing to what Marcus said about participation and how do we get people to come out and vote. So the Election Commission has this program called the SWEEP. It's the Systematic Voter Education Program. Again, months in leading up to the election, we have celebrities come out, do advertisements and tell people go out and vote and how important it is, because at the end of the day, it's you want more and more people to come out, vote, and assert their democratic right.
Right.
And that is the goal that the Election Commission also wants to achieve.
Well,
but just a second.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to see what UD has just done in the party primaries. They employed a digital voting system, and it went well.
Okay.
It went well.
Well, let's see if that can be. You know what is going to happen? If
Yeah.
you suggest that at the national level, people will ask who is behind you.
Exactly.
And now you want to bring it to the national level.
But you see, we can learn. You see, if even in the last elections, ODM, UDA, they did. Some of them did party primaries using their digital tools, and they were less.
Yes, I have a quick one. Just in very
10
few
seconds.
Just 10 seconds. Who announces the results? Is it the chair of the commission? After the elections, after voting has been done, tallying has been done, who makes the announcement?
It is the Election Commission that makes it. It's not one person coming out with a mic and saying this person has won.
But remember,
so it's not also we have to understand it's not presidential.
It's parliamentary.
It's a parliamentary form.
Yeah.
So MPs are elected, and then say for so we have 543 seats in the lower house, the Lok Sabha that we call, of which you need 272, 50% to make majority. So if you have more than 272, if you have 272 members of parliament, the leader of the party which has the most number of seats, he goes and tells the president that I want to make the government.
Right.
And then the government is formed.
Because they have the majority. Yeah. Interesting stuff. And looking at how we can actually learn from each other and looking forward to a system that works. Trust seems to be the overarching issue here. Thank you both for being here this morning. There'll be many, many more conversations around elections, of course, as we're getting into them. Marcus Agenga is the program coordinator for ELOG, which is the Elections Observation Group, and Rishab Kumar Rawar, head of Commerce and Press, the High Commission of India to Kenya. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Gentlemen, asante sana. Past at 3 minutes past 9. More conversations after this. Don't go away.
.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Lea Ubaga. With almost a month to the national exams, preparations are in top gear ahead of the grade 9 transition to secondary school. Basic Education PS Julius Bitok says the ministry is working out modalities to ensure that it spreads the 1.2 million learners in grade 9 to all the 9,500 secondary schools in the country. Bitok adds that learners' placement will be based on their career pathways and their performance in the assessment next month.
One thing I want to tell you is that right now we have 2.4 million spaces in senior school and we have 1.2 million learners. So we have enough capacity in our senior school for transition. And our plan is to transition 100%. Some of the schools have so many students selecting them, which is not possible to absorb them. So we're trying to plan for this transition. And as you are aware, we removed the idea of national schools, extra county schools, and day schools in terms of that category. What we have now is what we call cluster 1 schools, cluster 2 schools, cluster 3 schools.
Kenya Publishers Association Chair Kiarie Kamau says they're ready to supply all the needed textbooks to grade 10 learners.
The learning areas are more than 35 learning areas, and those learning areas must be taken care of because we must take care of every desire of the Kenyan child. We have the capacity to supply all those learning areas, the capacity to supply all the copies needed in the country, and we are saying that we are optimistic that this payment will be settled in time to enable us supply books for grade 10 in a seamless way so that come January 2026, all schools in Kenya will have books for grade 10.
The transition could, however, run into challenges should the government fail to clear the 3 billion shillings debt owed to publishers to allow them to print a catalogue of grade 10 textbooks. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission has raised concern over the growing number of youth gangs linked to violence, particularly in major cities. NCIC Chair Samuel Kobia is calling for swift action to address the threat. This follows recent complaints from Nairobi residents about theft in public service vehicles earlier this month.
What we have seen in this country, the evolution of organized criminal gangs. This is a matter that we must take very seriously. As NCIC, we have just completed a study on the evolution of organized criminal gangs in Kenya, and we will be launching this in the coming week or two, because this shows that there's a new development where very young people, including juvenile gangs, especially in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in many other places.
And young leaders in Biswa, Trans Nzoia are urging the government to ensure a free and fair KDF recruitment process led by Evans Nasiuma. He said that serving the nation is a patriotic duty and must remain free from favoritism or irregularities.
Nataka kuambia vijana ambao wanataka kujiunga na jeshi, na mimi namuomba President William Samoei Ruto, yeye ni rafiki yangu. Mimi namuomba sana, hapa Trans Nzoia County kuna umaskini kubwa sana. Vijana wengi wachukuliwe Trans Nzoia County, especially hapa na Biswa. Mimi naomba sana President asikie hiyo maneno ili asaidie vijana wetu. Na vijana wengi wajitokeze, na President William Samoei Ruto nakuomba sana, hii ikuwe na uwazi ili wasaidie, especially wale watoto ambao wanatoka kwa familia ambayo hajiwezi kama wachane, wenye wazazi wao hawako, wasaidie sana ili wajiunge na jeshi.
Nasiuma also encouraged the youth to enroll in technical colleges to gain practical job skills and achieve self-reliance.
Vocational school inasaidia sana. Na hawa watoto wakisomea kazi ya vocational schools, wakimaliza ni wasikuje wakae mtaani. Vile Alfred Mutua anafanya huko Nairobi, hawa watu wanabiswa wote ama from Trans Nzoia County wote wachukuliwa baada ya kumaliza ili waende wapate kazi. Wasisome alafu wawache tu. Another thing, ninaomba President wetu Samoei Ruto asaidie hawa vijana wakimaliza graduation wanapewa hiyo vitu kama ambayo Oscar Sudi amekuwa akifanya, ili pia wakipata equipment hawatakaa mtaani, watatoka ili wakuje wasaidie wazazi wao.
That's the news wire. I'm Leo Baga, and remember to continue enjoying the EPL matches across our radio stations. That is Berur, Radio Maisha, and right here on SpiceFM.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, coming into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, this Monday, the 22nd of September. And at 12 minutes past 9 o'clock, we get into that final conversation. Joining us on the hot seats of The Situation Room this morning, we have two guests, and we're going to be looking at a number of things, a number of laws as pertains tobacco and its use, and looking at some of those things that folks are currently debating in today's market. So let's get into it. And we want to say a very big Situation Room welcome to two of our guests this morning. They're no strangers to this conversation, but we'll let you know who they are anyway. Dr. Karaoke Michael is the Secretary General of the Harm Reduction Society of Kenya, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
Boniface Gashoka is the Secretary General of the National Bar Owners Association, and he's also here as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu Sana. Striking a balance, the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill debate. There is a debate, it's raging on. We'll get into that in just a minute. Dennis Aseto is going to welcome you with today's proverb. He'll tell you where that's from. We'd love to get your interpretation of it.
Yeah, the proverb today comes from Ivory Coast, the country that is known for its cocoa, also produces coffee, and majority of rubber that is supplied across the world comes from the country. And one of the greatest exporters as well is one Didier Drogba, to Chelsea and back. But let's go to the proverb. A single tree cannot make a forest. A single tree cannot make a forest. How would you interpret that? One blue.
Great. A single tree, the definition of a forest is a lot of trees. The name forest cannot be complete without a lot of them. So when you decide to move singly, or when you decide to move alone, you defy the definition. The same case to life. When you decide to go alone, you defy the nature and the definition of life.
Okay.
How would you interpret it?
Thank you. I concur with Boniface, and indeed, you cannot singly do something. You need a concerted effort to be able to achieve an intended goal.
Well put, well said.
Yeah.
The need and purpose of working together.
All right. Thank you for that. This morning, we're looking at a bill that is before Parliament that essentially seeks to amend the Tobacco Control Act, which came about in 2007. All right. The amendment bill, which is before the Senate, it's 35 of 2024. It wants to modernize the law to cover newer nicotine and tobacco-related products, which were not anticipated in 2007. In 2007, there were certain things which were in the tobacco space. It was clear, cigars, cigarettes, and such. But in the last 14, 15, 16 years, that has changed, and that you have more products for which the Act did not cover, right? And that is essentially what has brought about the amendment bill. It's responding to concerns around things like the use of vapes, nicotine patches, synthetic nicotine, especially amongst younger people. So the bill is seeking to amend certain things within the Act. And we are looking at sales to minors. We are looking at advertising and marketing. We're looking at regulating flavors and additives. We're looking at packaging and safety, regulation and oversight, some of these things. And it's also coming into the place where it is suggesting penalties for certain things, which people don't like. 500,000 shillings or imprisonment for up to 3 years or both for violations around synthetic nicotine, misleading advertising, which tells you, oh, come on, a vape is not so bad. You're actually not combusting anything, but you're doing okay. So they're saying, we could put you in the slammer for 3 years or ask you to pay 500,000 bucks or both, right? And so these are some of the things that the bill is suggesting to actually then amend the Act. Some people don't like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And we're asking questions as to why and where, as the debate rages on, are we going to find that sweet spot where we can say, okay, everybody can exist peaceably or peacefully. Let's start off with you. Gashoka, what's the problem here?
We support the bill. Is very good, and we support an amendment that would capture modernization, innovations, creativity, that would capture the future and the present problems. Because actually, Tobacco Act has stayed for a long time, 2007 to where we are. So we support it. The only issue is there are some issues and there are some points in the bill that we feel there need to be more stakeholders consultation. That we need to have more discussion. We need to have some scientific backed evidence into the bill. We need to involve a few of the experts that we have in the private sector and even in the business sector and even in the government sector. We need to have a sober conversation on the bill. I think that is the only place where we have the issue with the bill. But we support control with reason. We support regulation, genuine and honest conversation on regulation, and also a conversation that would capture the challenges and the future challenges that we have. For example, nicotine conversation is a very new conversation that we feel it also needs regulation. Youth access is something that we also need to participate, and we need it to be captured because we are a responsible business organization that support compliance with the law. And actually, that is a major purpose and objective of Balita.
Okay. Dr. Karaoke, there are a couple of things in 2007 that didn't exist. The campaigns towards, ending or reducing significantly tobacco use because of the dangers that it posed to one who would imbibe. Was really around advertising and what you put on the packets. But then we were told later that things like patches and vaping was not so bad because we were also told that it is the combustion of a cigar or a cigarette that causes the harm. And then we saw these newer inventions and the assumption is that they're all right. Are they?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just before I answer that, I want to give a background on this tobacco control amendment bill. And we do know very well that in 2004, Kenya ratified the WHO's Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, which was a really major step. And in 2007, we had the Tobacco Control Act enacted. And several years down the line in 2014, we had the tobacco control regulations. So the last time we had regulations was in 2014. And throughout, then so many things have happened. And we have seen, as you have rightfully said, tobacco products have evolved. And we do support the bill as Harm Reduction Society. And what we are saying is that we need to back any law with science. And essentially what we are trying to say as Harm Reduction Society is that there are several key omissions that the bill left out, which we had already suggested. And we will discuss those key omissions that were left out. And back to your question, I want to answer it in a very simple way, in that these are products that are here with us, and these are products that have scientifically been proven to be less harmful. There is a lot of studies out there, and we are looking at smokers. These are products that have assisted smokers to quit.
Mm-hmm.
We know that tobacco or combustible cigarettes, is extremely harmful. It has more than 9,000 carcinogenic substances. And a lot of research has been done on some of these new products, like in the UK, in Japan, and so many other countries. And it has been shown beyond doubt that some of these products, like electronic cigarettes, nicotine pouches, are way safer for those who use cigarettes and can be used by those cigarette smokers to quit. What we emphasize on is, if you're not a user of these products, please don't start.
Why? And yet, Michael, you know, you look at regulation, and one of the strongest arguments for this bill is just to protect the young people. Your last words is, if you have not started, please don't start. So this is to then protect these young people from exposure to early nicotine use or addiction. Is the law going to, because I've seen this in other countries where you have regulation, but and you even have like pockets with the very graphic images of lungs, very, very ugly images, but it still does not really deter these people from getting the same cigarettes. The bill is very strong on this, to protect these young people. So for those ones who have started or who are already smoking, it's maybe then to tell them the dangers, the carcinogenic elements that then will make somebody develop complications. But then, is prevention better? And is this bill going to be more active on the prevention side? Or what needs to be done?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm a consultant pediatrician, and I can tell you for free that nicotine is one of the most addictive substances that we have. And once the youth and children are exposed to nicotine very early in age, there is a very high tendency that they will get hooked to this nicotine product or the nicotine products. And we welcome the bill in its entirety, in as far as protecting the youth and children and those who do not use the products. It is of paramount importance to note that we need to protect our children. We need to protect our children from initiation of these products. But the question is, how will we implement that protection? We may have the law, but we must put into place adequate measures for the implementation of that law, the enforcement component. Because we have very good laws. I mean, for example, in the current tobacco control regulations, you're not supposed to sell single sticks of cigarettes. But when you walk out there, people are selling single sticks.
Yes, they are.
So the question is, how do we strike a balance between this law and protection and making sure that there is good enforcement? And one of the ways we are doing as Harm Reduction Society is to educate the public, because you must give the public truthful information, so that they are aware and make informed decisions.
Okay, so my question is actually for Gashoka, but before that, there's something I need in terms of clarification. Shisha, which is very popular in bars, now you can see why the question is for Gashoka. Is shisha, does it have a combustible element when it comes to nicotine, or is it just,
Yeah, shisha in its form is a tobacco product.
It is, okay.
And it's a combustible form of tobacco.
Okay.
And just to give in context, by the time you're done with the shisha session, it's like smoking 100 cigarettes.
One of those fancy urns with the pipe, you've done with that, you've smoked 100 cigarettes.
100 cigarettes.
Okay.
So it is a very harmful product. We do know that Kenya did ban shisha in 2017, but we also what happened thereafter. Yeah.
Okay, Gashoka.
Great.
Shisha is in any bar that's worth its salt today.
Yeah.
That is going to bring in folks who will be interested in staying there for however many hours overnight, employs the use of this product. It's a drawer, you know. So how then do we say that we're looking to regulate certain things for the health safety of people if it is one of the very thing that's banked on to bring foot traffic into some of these establishments?
Great. There's somewhere where I wanted us to start from. Then we come to shisha. There is a campaign on harm reduction, tobacco harm reduction. And this is what, Balita, we are embracing. In which case it's a public strategy that has come up to reduce the harm caused by tobacco or cigarettes. In this case, let's start from the deliveries. When people consume or when people smoke cigarette, what exactly do they look for? They look for nicotine. And the process of getting nicotine, there has to be combustion, there has to be smoking, inhaling and such kind of a thing. And this is now what causes all the other harms that Dennis is talking about there, printed on, that is the graphic health warnings. So now, some scientists, and a research was done on tobacco health, tobacco harm reduction, and they decided to come up with three things, among others. So there was the aspect of e-cigarette, there was the aspect of nicotine pouches, where the three things have been eliminated. In this case, there is no smoking, there is no aspect of combustion, which actually Dr. was talking about, the 9,000 carcinogenic harmful substance that are generated. And when that transition comes in, this act, Tobacco Amendment Act, we thought it was going to encompass the control, or it was going to enable an environment where we will reduce the risk caused by tobacco, by combustion, by a very great margin. So let's go to the shisha conversation. I don't know so much about it because it's a banned product and I don't want to discuss so much about it.
Well, it's banned on paper.
It's banned on paper, but it's not banned in the bar.
Yeah, and that's why we're here, because one of the things that we have with this regulation, with this Amendment Act, is we have so many good laws in Kenya. We have so many. The Tobacco Control Act is a very good law. It even talked about youth access. I mean, one can go to jail, there is a fine on it, there's very good punishment. But what happened about enforcement? The same case to shisha, what happened? It was banned. It is still there. And that's why we are saying that the issues that we have with Tobacco Amendment Bill, the bill that has been brought by the private member, is that we have laws. What is the problem? The problem is, even when shisha was being banned, there was an aspect, actually it was even challenged in court. There was an aspect of stakeholders' involvement, consultation. There was an aspect of public participation, but it was just given a blanket. That's why it's everywhere. And that's why we have an issue with this bill in terms of you're bringing us a bill. We are the retailers. We are very close to the consumers. We have our own opinion that we feel that should be taken, but there was no public participation. Our opinion was, in fact, I can even say here confidently that my opinion was rejected. Our opinion as Balita, the 54,000 members that we have, were not given even a platform. We even looked for the private member to have a private conversation and share. And we've been denied that opportunity. And that is why we are saying, one of the things that is making us dispute this Tobacco Amendment Bill is lack of private participation and public participation. And let me tell you, it is very unfortunate when you use Senate's time to rush with this bill. This bill is being rushed at a very high speed that we are not even understanding what is the problem. I mean, it was tabled, it went through the second reading, and there was no committee report. Committee report is being brought as an afterthought after we've done a lot of engagement. Even the period, it started in August, before they went for recess, now they are coming for third reading. The public participation, the purported public participation that was done in Bunge Towers for 3 hours. Even us, by the time we were reaching there, we were not given an opportunity. We have given our submission. And that's what we're saying. We support this bill, and we support a process that will bring control to the new, safer alternatives, but let all the stakeholders be involved. I'm talking about my retailers. Because in this case, they're talking about coming up with a new license, a county license that will be, a new license that will come. This already beats the spirit of single business permit. I mean, we've even had matters in court in Nyandarua challenging the aspect of double taxation. I mean, so many licenses for the same thing. So now here, they're coming up with another bill that they're supposed to do licensing in Nairobi, that is for Njeri, and then also push the same licenses to go to the counties. That is to affect my members. Now we're going to have a special license that will regulate tobacco. For what purpose?
So here, what I hear you speak is in terms of public participation and perhaps losses that you would inquire, or cost of doing business would go up. But I still want us to remain on the aspect of shisha and your role as Balit in ensuring that the laws and policies that have been put in place are actually upheld. Because we sit here and we say, fine, shisha we know is illegal, it has been banned, but Friday, you walk into a bar, it is there. What is your responsibility to your members to ensure that they play by the book, so that even when you come forth to seek participation, to be involved in this exercise, you already come from a point of goodwill?
First of all, let me say that Balita cannot replace the force and the duty, the public duty of the government. And that's what I'm saying. We have a lot of goodwill on any policy that comes in. But when a matter comes in and you are not consulted into it, there was no contribution, your contribution was not taken. You even wonder, like, at what point are you going to support it? Because the thing came and you're not involved as an industry. Your contribution, you had, on the issues of shisha, we had our own contribution on it. We had our own consultation on the minister who was there, the CS was there then. We had our own legal team that raised the conversation on it. But it was rejected. That's the same way we are here on Tobacco Amendment Bill. We have our own contribution. We have our own submission. Public participation was not done. And that's why we are saying we feel as an association that, especially on Tobacco Amendment Bill, we are going in the wrong direction. There is no need of us rushing a bill, a very good law, or having an opportunity to improve on the controls of tobacco and nicotine products, and then rushing the bill and ignoring the industry. Then at the end of the day, this thing will be tied in court for years, and we will not have an opportunity again, a good opportunity like we have right now, of stakeholders consultation and having this conversation to talk about it, because the matter will be pending in court. So the same case, there was the issue of shisha, there was the issue of consultation, public participation, even one-on-one engagement. We were denied that opportunity. The same case with what we have right now. We've even gone ahead. I have a very funny story on how I have worked very hard as a leader of retailers of tobacco and alcohol to look for these members and have a conversation. And one time they told me, whatever you're doing is you're being pushed by someone. Then I said, you're talking about a bill that is running in the Senate that is supposed to protect the counties, and then the public participation is only done in Bunge Tower. So I was asking the opinion of the people, like what we've seen. We've seen a lot of reaction in the whole country from different stakeholders in Kenya. We've seen a lot of media public outburst of the bill. And that's why we say, like, why don't we be given an opportunity to contribute, to give our opinion? Why don't we stop this bill? Okay, what is the rush for?
Okay, what's the motivation? Why are you not being involved in this?
We feel that we've seen the reaction on the amendment laws, because we were participated in GHW, the graphic health warnings, and we went even through public participation on the adjustment of the graphic health warnings, and the instruction was very clear from I don't know who, that pass the document without a comma. And let me tell you.
But even then there were issues.
Yes, we raised our issue.
Even in the negotiations, I remember clearly when there was that suggestion, there was pushback not to have those images there. Yeah.
There was no pushback. The issue was we had our own contribution. Like for retailers, for example, for us, for retailers in the whole country, we greatly and in a very great way participated in those public participation engagement. We were not refusing the whole thing, all the images. We were just saying this image violates the rights of women or men based on the pictures that were there. But this one, we are okay with it. But let me tell you, the document that was produced in the first instance and went through public participation is the same document without the change of a comma that came out of the process.
So there's a precedent here.
Yes.
So what's the motivation? That's my question.
And that's why we are saying now on these precedents, on DHW, because we kept quiet and we still have a right to go to court, and there's something we can do about it. We think and feel this is a precedent that has been set by, I think, the Minister of Health or something, that once they come up with a document, that document has to go through the way it is going to go through. And that is why now we feel as an industry, we feel as retailers, this is where we are going wrong, because some of the ideas that we want to share in are going to tighten the controls. Let me give you an example. Like, for example, youth access and online. We have a 2010 constitution that allows us to participate and remove this dictatorial tendency of pushing things into people. Example is Nepal. They came up and banned something. Part of what we're seeing in this law, some of the controls that we're seeing, is the CS is being given a lot of powers that even he can stand and ban the product. Look at what happened in Nepal. Stand, ban, we get into chaos. Now, in this business, the chaos that we're going to get into, we're going to push a lot of people into illicit. It happened. Let me give you an example. In South Africa, during COVID, they banned consumption of cigarettes. And let me tell you, within a short period, before they reinstated, they canceled the ban, the country had lost more than $2.5 billion US dollars. Up to date, they have never recovered in terms of illicit. Illicit in South Africa stands at around more than 70%. And that is exactly where we're going. If we don't give an opportunity for us who live with the consumers every day, Mashinani, we're the last people, the last line, we are the retailers. Mm-hmm. If you're not given an opportunity to contribute to these bills, if our opinion and ideas are blocked from, in fact, there's even a day when I asked the private member person, why don't you give me an opportunity? Just listen to me. You are the owner of a baby. I'm not going to change your baby. I'm not going to steal your baby. Just listen to my ideas. I give you a few ideas, and then you feel if you will take them or not. Because if we don't do that, we are the last people. Let me tell you, right now as we are talking, illicit of cigarette is at 45%. This bill may increase that illicit to almost 60%.
So currently as it stands, why is that number that high?
It's the same case, Tobacco Act 2007. And the same way I'm telling you, we went for GHW. What was given in the first place, the opinion of the ministry was taken for public participation for cosmetic. It is the same document that was implemented.
Okay.
Now we're also on the same thing. Another very good document that we can add very creative and very nice ideas to improve it. We've been denied an opportunity.
Do price hikes, Dr. serve as deterrents vis-a-vis the medical or physiological dangers that are posed by the inhalation of combustible tobacco? For example, in Europe, we know very many countries, we can use this as an example and we can compare because the body is the same, right? And we know the dangers that it causes. We know the long-term effects of use of tobacco over time. Now we're looking at a physiological point of view. And the price controls that they brought in place were not because they wanted to press down on an economy, but that they said maybe this will serve as a deterrent. That if people have to spend more on a cigarette or whatever the case may be, then the likelihood of them using it more over time then would reduce, right? And then you could save somebody's health. But that doesn't seem to work, because if somebody's addicted, they're addicted, and they would go through whatever channels it would take to then use it. So yes, there's an economic side of things, but there's also the medical side of things. So now if we're sitting here in the middle and we say, if they're going to raise the price, or they're going to ban it completely, or they're going to change the advertising, or they're going to say no, 60% of the packaging of a pack of cigarettes should not be about harmful messages on harmful, rather advertising with harmful messages. Does that deter from what you've seen? Does the packaging of the burnt lungs deter somebody who's addicted to cigarette smoking from smoking? Does it say that I'm not going to vape anymore because I've been told that these are what the harmful effects are if I've already become addicted?
Yeah, thank you. Historically, banning substances or raising taxes has never been proved to be a deterrent. And what is most critical is to come up with regulations and educate the people on the dangers of this. I'll give you an example. In the US, during the times of Al Capone, there were really lots of banning of moonshine and all that, but the industry thrived. In South Africa, when they banned cigarette smoking during COVID, illicit.
That's how the black market thrives, right?
Yes, that's how the black market. There were lots of black market products whose standards nobody knows. Raising taxes is one of the WHO's recommendations to deter people, but over time, it has been shown that it's not working. And this is simply because 80% of cigarette smokers are now currently in low and middle income countries, of which Kenya is one. And the numbers in low and middle income countries of people smoking is increasing, despite the component of raising taxes. And we evaluated this as harm reduction society, and we said there are two key things that the Tobacco Control Act 2007 and these new amendments have omitted completely, and we have been raising these issues all along. When the Tobacco Control Act came into force, they lifted word for word from WHO's Framework Convention for Tobacco Control. But they omitted one key definition that was in WHO's FCTC, which is tobacco control. If you go to Article 1D of WHO's Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, it clearly defines tobacco control as a means or range of supply, demand, and harm reduction strategies. And when we raised that issue with the ministry and told them, why have we not defined tobacco control in our laws as defined in the WHO's FCTC? Because the component of harm reduction strategies is where the solution lies. You may do a lot of controls on demand, you may do a lot of controls on the supply side, but if you don't bring in the component of tobacco harm reduction strategies, then we will not achieve as much as we really want to achieve.
Does it therefore this speak in terms of a good idea that is not packaged in a manner that will bring out the maximum benefit for the citizenry? And if that's the case, perhaps, then what must be done to take us to the right direction?
Yes, we said from the word go, we must define tobacco control as defined in WHO's Framework Convention of Tobacco Control, so that we include the component of harm reduction. Harm reduction is very important in as far as tobacco control is concerned, and we have seen countries like the UK adopt harm reduction strategies. We have seen countries like Sweden who are on the verge of being declared smoke-free, and they are being declared smoke-free. Actually, they have, because they have applied harm reduction strategies to their cigarette smokers in Sweden to bring their smoking rates to less than 5%. And it is purely science, because harm reduction entails harm minimization, and most importantly, the second pillar of harm reduction is scientific evidence. You know, your laws must be based on scientific evidence. And the other thing that we have said, and we are not doing as a country, is to recognize the concept of risk continuum. Risk continuum is a concept in health whereby you say you categorize products based on their risks. Then now you're able to tell the population that a combustible cigarette is 100% risky, and these other nicotine products are 95% safer or 5% risky. And this is science. And we cannot ignore science in as far as regulation is concerned.
Yeah, I hear you speak, Daktari, but Boniface, we both agree that all this is beautiful in text. We will put this down on paper as policy, as law. But there is the next component that is equally important, even with public participation, if it happens. Now it is a question of implementation and enforcement, because that is where we go wrong. So let's take an assumption, a theory that all that we discuss in here have been included in the final text and the document that will then guide how we do things. How then do we move to ensure that those the responsibility of enforcing and implementing this text play by the rules?
Let me give you one of the most motivating factor is this. If we go through public participation, I just want to talk about the implementation and where it's going to be embraced. And the retailers, you can imagine my opinion as the leader of the retailers is given an opportunity, is taken 100%, 10%, 15%. But I feel that I own the document. I am motivated to go out there and train my retailers, to put resources, to call for industrial involvement, to call for my people, to mobilize them, to ensure there is compliance. And that is where there is a problem. That the problem we have with implementation, with enforcement, is when there is an academic paper that is being implemented without involving Kenyans. It is our right in the Constitution. And I think that is one of the spirit that motivated public participation. Then when we involve Kenyans into it, they own the document. Whether it's 10%, 5%, or even a discussion is done and then you're told that whatever you're proposing at this point, this is where we reject it, but here we can take it. We are involved. Our conversation is embraced. For sure, we will participate and own the document. There'll be no issues of, legal challenges later. There'll be an issue of understanding. Let me tell you, we've actually been looking at the UK Parliament where when someone comes with a bill, they defend it. They understand. They're examined to ensure that the law that they're bringing, it is in their heart. They talk about the way they have interacted with the retailers, with the people affected. And when everybody understands the law, they embrace it. And let me tell you, when such kind of a conversation comes in, there'll be a lot of goodwill in terms of even compliance, in terms of even adjusting our behaviors. There'll be a lot of goodwill in terms of even reporting to ensure that there is proper enforcement. But when something is created and you're still anti it, you're saying you need to add this, or when a law comes in that even you feel as industry it cannot even be implemented, it's unimplementable, or maybe the cost of implementing it, the adjustment is too big. That's why there is that civil disobedience. That's why there is no embrace. That's why there is even on the side of the enforcement, because we've even seen in some quarters where some organization, they've come up to give their submission on how well enforcement can be done, and still the opinion was not taken. And these are experts in enforcement. So when such kind of conversations come in, and the business, the private sector, the people affected, their opinions are not taken, or even the aspect cannot even be implemented, that is where there's challenges on compliance and enforcement.
WHO, because you talked about the UK, this is WHO now, the Europe Tobacco Control Playbook. They say there's a case study and there's an argument here. And part of what they're saying is that the tobacco industry has consistently fought a lot of these measures and rules and regulations, falsely claiming they are ineffective, they harm retailers, or fuel illicit trade. But the evidence, WHO says, tells a different story. Research shows that pictorial health warnings are significantly more effective than text only, for example, text labels, especially for people with lower literacy or children. These warnings increase awareness of health risks and contribute to reduce smoking rates. My question is, because you've said the problem is when you're not involved, you're not coming to the table to be listened to. I have a question. Enforcement is the key word in this whole conversation. How do you propose this should be done?
First of all, for the tobacco amendment bill, we have our own proposals. I've talked about them. We need to be listened. Let me give you an example of some of the proposal. One of the proposal is the aspect of flavors. Tobacco amendment bill is going to ban flavors. That is their proposal. We are very close to customers. These flavors, we've even seen them, live even on other people, even on me, that one of the strongest challenges that we have is the strength to addiction. And once people transit, we've even heard about Sweden where they've even, they have a 5% reduction That's the 5% people. The world is headed towards non-combustible solution, towards safer alternative. That's where we are headed. So and one of the things that these safer alternatives are going to help, that is e-cigarette and nicotine pouches, they're going to help people move from combustion to non-combustible. But now, when we ban the flavors, we will, now the taste of e-cigarette or vapes or what have you is going to taste tobacco. Are we really going to help them? There's an argument on it where the ministry says, and that's why we're saying, we are very realistic people and we are very honest in terms of this conversation. There's an argument to it that these flavors may be attractive or may encourage people to get into it. We're giving, now this is our suggestion, we're giving a suggestion or our contribution towards this is we give flavors that are not children attractive. We give flavors that you cannot get them in candies, that you cannot get them in alcohol or other things, to ensure that we don't bring the aspect of children here.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the proposals. The other challenge that we've seen is youth access and online. There's a lot of online engagement in liquor, nakada bill, and even on tobacco. And one of the things that we are proposing, we're actually helping to strengthen this bill, is to ensure that we define proper youth access. Or we have restriction in terms of access, in terms of even, because what we deal with here is an adult conversation, is an adult consumable goods. So we don't feel there's any restriction if a retailer or if a customer comes to a retailer and is asked for an ID. What if that law defined it like that? But when it is silent, you're exposing my retailers into harassment, because anybody can come, buy. The same case to online deliveries. If you're going to deliver a good, let there be a law that will restrict. If I'm going to deliver a good to your place, you have to produce an ID.
Mm-hmm. If that's the argument, Dr. Kareki, let me rope you in on this. A few weeks ago, the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, this is in the UK, because you're talking about non-combustible, whatever, they said disposable vapes should be banned because of their popularity among children and young people. And they say partly thanks to their bright colors, number one, because if you're going to put strawberry flavor, the strawberry is not going to be black. It's going to be a bright color. It's red.
Yeah.
If you're going to put banana flavor, it's yellow. These are all attractive, bright colors, sweet flavors. And then there are low prices. And then the other argument was because it looks fashionable in music videos, celebrities are using all these kind of things. So they're saying this thing needs to be banned. New Zealand has banned most disposable vapes, as well as the sale of vapes in shops within at least 300 meters of schools. That argument that Boniface is bringing in terms of, okay, let's move away from this, let's now then at least introduce this, but let's put regulation. How do you regulate this when already a banana is yellow, strawberry is red? You cannot, how do you regulate all this from being attractive to young people and children?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me just go back and give you some statistics by NACADA. The tobacco initiation age in Kenya is 6 years. 6 years. Our children are being exposed to tobacco as early as 6 years. And one of the reasons they find out is people or parents are smoking at home, in their family rooms. They are sending children to buy cigarettes. They are telling their children, go and light up this cigarette. So the tobacco initiation age is very early. So that tells you there is that population of children who must really be protected. And enforcement is key. We know tobacco is legal in this country. And what we really need, for example, I'll give you a very practical example. In Japan, you cannot buy an electronic cigarette without a prescription. It's a prescription only product with very strict controls. So enforcement is possible, but we must come up with modalities on how to implement this enforcement, because the other solution which will never work is banning. Banning never works. It promotes so many things. And with the New Zealand and the Royal College of Pediatrics. Indeed, research has been shown, and they are trying as much as possible to restrict the sale of these products to children, like the Japanese way, the way the Japanese are trying to do. And those are the regulations that we need. We need regulations that are able to protect the children, from the harmful effects. Even the user who uses, like in Japan, some of the electronic cigarettes are fingerprint-based lighting systems, whereby that electronic cigarette will only go on if you place your fingerprint. Which means even if you leave that electronic cigarette on top of the table and probably a child passes by, they won't be able to use that product. So we must come up with innovative ways and involve everyone on board so that we are able to see how best can we regulate these products. And it is important that we have them regulated because some of the electronic cigarettes in the Kenyan market have very little doses of nicotine. And we are saying that we must bring in the regulation so that we have standard products. The other thing that this bill has really done injustice is to say that tobacco equals nicotine and nicotine equals tobacco. That is not true. Scientifically it is not true. And we have been telling the ministry and the people concerned, we must define tobacco and nicotine correctly. Otherwise, when you lump them up together, it brings a big problem. And also involve all the stakeholders on board. So protecting children and youth is critical.
Okay. And so then you're just looking at, Boniface, looking at this bill and the protections that it could serve for the population at large, and also what it could do for businesses, because it's a double issue here. At the stage that the bill is currently, do we see that there will be an opportunity for other interested parties to weigh in on this debate?
First of all, the impact on the bill, because when you talk about additional licenses and additional licenses on tobacco, I don't know why, and even lumping up that it will also go to the counties, that is of great concern to us. Let me just relate it with the Liquor Act. Initially, when the Liquor Act was devolved and the new constitution was being implemented, there was some committees that were done that were supposed to vet the bars and what have you. And one of the things, the same way, we gave proposal, when you do these inspection committees or the approval committees, put the bar owners there. Let them give an idea on who is selling illicit in the village. Let us have these discussions. Let us have an old, experienced and integral liquor owner in these committees, so that is going to enrich the committee with a lot of information. And we were told, hey, you want to behave like cartels. There was all this fear that the bar owners should be on this side and then the regulators should be on the other side. And then majority of these regulation boards were given to pastors, men of the cloth. We respect them. My mother is a pastor. We respect them. And let me tell you, when it came to implementation, that's how there was all this noise. There are bars everywhere. There are bars near schools. There are bars that are not paying licenses. Why? Because the regulation bodies, the sub-county, the county, and the appeals bodies, what our opinion was denied. We had very good ideas. And right now, as we are talking to you, we're talking with you, we have like 21 counties. They have accepted. They are amending all their acts to ensure that the bar owners are in those regulation bodies, even here in Nairobi, majority of them. And now they're able to net the challenges that we were talking about. Same case that we're going to have here. We have a good bill. We have an opportunity to give ideas. You can imagine even the idea that Karaoke is giving on Japan, that we can do an e-cigarette where I will use my fingerprint. That is also an idea that we want to contribute towards the bill, and we want to put controls and enrich it. And if we miss on such kind of, because let me tell you, illicit cigarette and illicit products. Just the other day, nicotine pouches were banned before the GHW and the new controls were put. And let me tell you, nicotine pouches were available everywhere. In fact, I think we accessed them easily when they were banned, rather than right now when they're on market, because there's a lot of controls on how to accept them.
Yeah.
And how to get them and how to sell them. There's a lot of controls on it. Unlike when they were banned, when they were easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a challenge that we're going to get here.
All right.
That the business, this is going to propel illicit business. Because you're talking about a product that we're not going to talk about a future where illicit will get into the country. There is a lot of illicit already right now.
Right.
And that is where now there's going to be a lot of courage, number one. Number two, the issue of licensing, because now we're talking about controls, we're talking about increasing the licenses and what have you. This is just going to increase the cost of doing business unnecessarily.
And those are things that need to be looked at. Necessary for us to have these conversations about things that are happening in the back end, but other folks who need to be involved in the conversation as well. And we'll keep talking about it. Thank you both, gentlemen, for being here with us this morning, closing out the Situation Room for us at a few minutes after 10 o'clock. Dr. Karaoke Michael is the Secretary General of Harm Reduction Society of Kenya. Boniface Gashoka, Secretary General of the National Bar Association, Bar Owners Association. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. These conversations must continue. And thank you all for being part of this Situation Room this Monday morning. More conversations continue. Enjoy the rest of your day at 10:01.
Latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Lea Obaga. President William Ruto has called on African leaders to unite in championing